Okay, let's talk through all these golf events that you have coming up.
Gabby, I'm glad you asked. Got my calendar right here. July 17th at Red Run, and then July 31st, I have the American Golf Outing for the Cancer Society.
I also have the American Cancer Society golf outing on the 31st, and also I got yours on the 18th, buddy.
Yeah, I'm gonna be there.
Whoa, boys, these are a lot of events and golf outings.
Well, you want me to miss my own golf tournament?
Gabby, they're all great colors.
I mean, this is...
Hold on. I got this. Guys, I got this. Don't worry about it. Hold on a second.
He always...
Hey guys. Thanks for coming so fast. How are ya? Remember the guys from Randy Wise, right? Sir. The Randy Wise Celebrity Golf Tour.
Watch for the eye.
It's the Randy Wise Celebrity Golf Tour. Some of the biggest names in Michigan sports. And some, well, not so much. Brought to you in part by Premier Security Solutions, Fairway Packing Company, and Swiss Insurance. Watch episodes at woodwardsports.com.
Good morning. It is the Morning Woodward Show here on the Woodward Sports Network, day after the NBA draft. Come on in, get comfortable, because we got a packed show today, all revolving essentially around what we got to witness last night. Ooh. Jeff Iafrate, your host, Sam Flannel, my partner in crime, per usual. Matt Broder in the sound booth. JB's currently out. He's helping out the company. Shout out, JB, we miss you. But Matt Broder's filling in. And on the ones and twos in the TD booth, Lucas Klotz. Look at Lucas, ready to take over today.
Dispo day, draft day was yesterday. Oh
yes.
my. It's a good day.
It is a great day. It's always a great day the day after the draft. We got Sam Flannel. Sam, before we get into anything, how you feeling this morning?
You know what? I'm feeling great. One of the biggest honors so far that since I've been at Woodward Sports is getting to do the draft day reaction with Woodward Pistons' own Jeff Iafrate. Didn't I just see you on TV last night for what, like 5 straight hours? What are you, like the Truman Show now? You're on every show ever.
Yeah, well, I was helping out the heavies. I was doing audio for them, and then we did the NBA draft show. And again, anybody who tuned into that, we appreciate you. They continued the live on Woodward Pistons over in Studio B. But it was a blast, man. Sitting there, obviously covering the NBA draft. I feel like this is every single year where you talk about 15 different prospects. You just want to get to the draft.
Oh, yeah.
You just want to find out who the Pistons are selecting. And we got our answer. It's Ausar Thompson, 5th overall. They stayed put. Troy Weaver didn't trade back. He didn't trade up. And there you go. Ausar Thompson listed him as a shooting guard / small forward. He's a wing in the NBA, 6'7", 220. And again, this is some guy that was mocked to the Pistons plenty of times. It was rumored, amen in him. The first brothers, I believe, in NBA history to be top 5 picks.
Wow.
Twin brothers. Safe to say they're better than the Morris twins, I would say, at this point.
I would say so. I mean, back-to-back, 4 and 5, that's a more unbelievable story than I think is being covered.
Yeah.
Twin brothers, one at number 4, one at number 5. That is a night that they certainly will never forget. And we certainly hope that Ausar Thompson turns out to be the right pick for the Detroit Pistons. It was very promising, of course.
Yes, it was. And again, Troy Weaver does a really good job at hinting at things before the draft. He does this. It's very subtle. And when he had his pre-draft presser, and one thing that stuck with me is that long ball comment. Like, that isn't nothing. That's something. Him hinting, I don't want to just bunt. I want to go for the long ball. That entails that he's not just going to settle for a player that fits the best. He wants to swing for the fences, which, again, could work out. But also it could not, like any other draft pick. So as much as we may be excited, there is a chance. And there's a lot of pressure on Troy for this draft pick to pan out. But again, in my opinion, if you look at what he said, going for the long ball, Sam, this was the guy. Left on the board, Troy said it. Ausar's been our guy for quite some time now. And he obviously, none of that stuff gets out. But we kind of knew that. He became the favorite or close to the favorite right before the draft. And again, I think his comments match Ausar. Ausar's upside, and I don't think people understand too, it's not just the athleticism. It's not just the size. Like, and I know people bring up shooting, and we'll get to all that stuff later in the show because I do understand the concerns there. But he brings so much, and that's why you take a risk on a guy like that, because you know if he can figure it out, the dude, he can be a dude in the NBA. He can be.
Absolutely. And I've come to appreciate Troy Weaver's transparency when it came to saying he wanted to go for the long ball and not just settle for a double or a bunt. And Ausar Thompson, whether you like him or not, whether you're concerned about his shooting or not, he is a high upside prospect. And if he hits, he might end up being one of the better picks in this draft. There's also the concern with him missing, the concern about his shot, and all of that is all good and valid. But right now, he at least went. I can't fault a guy for swinging for the fences, and that feels like what Troy Weaver did with Ausar Thompson. So I'm not mad about it. I'm not super excited or anything, but I definitely have talked myself into it. And Jeff Iafrate, I'm sure you'll talk me more into it further on.
And again, with Ausar too, you have to understand here. With you look at the pick itself and the prospect of Ausar Thompson, the athleticism, he's going to be a day one pretty elite defender. Like, at least there's that. The shooting, like, we talk about this team needs shooting. They need guys that can defend, specifically on the wing. So I get the whole, well, we need shooters. I knew there was something to them being interested in Jeremy Grant and Tobias Harris. There was something to that. Guys that can play the four, that can shoot the ball. That kind of, as much as we didn't really look into it, it kind of spoke to what they were looking for. And again, you get a guy day one who could be a great defender. And just to go through Ausar Thompson really quickly, and I want to give kind of a backstory. He obviously played at Overtime Elite. Again, a two-time Overtime Elite champion. Both seasons he played there, and he picked up the Finals MVP award in both of those of those seasons as well. Troy Weaver said it himself. Even before the Overtime Elite League, these guys were top 5. They were lottery picks. They were top 5 picks. And even after Overtime Elite, they got much better. So for people saying, well, you draft these guys out of Overtime Elite, this is the new age of the NBA now. Like, it's not just, I know typically it's always been college. You draft guys out of college or overseas. There's so many other options, Sam. You got G League Ignite. You got the Overtime Elite League. Like, guys can showcase their skills no matter where they go. And in the NBA draft, compared to other drafts, you draft on potential. And I think Ausar, if you're talking about potential, has the highest upside of anybody else in that draft spot. I mean, yes, the players that were left on the board, I mean, could you have taken Taylor Hendricks, my guy? Of course. But I understand the philosophy for Troy Weaver. I understand trying to take a swing on a guy like Ausar Thompson. And again, you talk about fit. There is that fit part that plays into this as well, because Ausar with Amen, they've played together their entire lives, but Asar's always played off of Amen. He's always played off ball. So the fit, he's going to get used to playing right with Cade and Jaden Ivey. And Troy said it himself. In today's NBA, you need multiple guys that can make plays with the basketball. That's the truth. As much as I like Taylor Hendricks, he ain't making plays off the dribble like Ausar Thompson. He just isn't. No. So in the modern day NBA, I think it's a great fit. If he could figure his shot out or at least be respectable, he's going to be a great player. He will be. Well,
that, of course, is the key with Ausar Thompson. And to be fair, obviously we know that his shooting percentages were not pretty in the Overtime Elite League. He was a 30% shooter in the regular season from 3. Not great. And that is definitely a concern, especially given the fact that Taylor Hendricks, Jarris Walker, and Cam Whitmore, all who were available at that slot, who I personally would have preferred them to pick at the time, all shot better in college than Ausar Thompson did from 3 in the Overtime Elite League. But I'll tell you what, one thing that gives me hope that Ausar Thompson can become a good shooter is in the Overtime Elite playoffs, he bumped that three-point percentage up to 39%, which is, if he can shoot 39% from 3 in the NBA at any point in his career, that would obviously be a home run pick. That would be one of the keys to Ausar Thompson reaching his ceiling and being that actual home run pick that Troy Weaver said that he was going to shoot for, obviously, or swing for. And you already mentioned it, Ausar Thompson, he's going to come in. What I like about this pick, too, is having Cade Cunningham back and having Ausar Thompson, their defense is going to be exponentially better from day one, presuming they're both healthy, than it was last year. You're not going to be looking at the Detroit Pistons as one of the worst defensive teams in the NBA, or at least not as bad as they were last year. And Ausar Thompson, an athletic wing who can guard the perimeter, the Pistons needed wing depth. Obviously, they have Bojan Bogdanovic right now, who is a three-point sniper, but he's not a defender, and he's older. They're looking to get younger, they're looking to get more athletic, and they're looking to get people who can score in transition. I mean, imagine Cade, Jaden Ivey, and Ausar Thompson coming at you on the fast break. There's going to be lots of explosive plays, I will say, and like I said, the more I talk myself into it, the more I look up on him, the more I hear people I trust sing Ausar Thompson's praises, the happier I get about this pick.
Yeah, and also they weren't done there. Troy Weaver traded up again in the first round, and he traded 2 second-round picks and 31 for 25, and selected Marcus Sasser out of Houston, who again 6'2". He's the size of a point guard, but he doesn't play like a point guard. He's a 2 guard. He can shoot the hell out of the ball. He's a nasty perimeter defender. And you look at what the Pistons need too with Killian Hayes. And I saw the tweets last night. Goodbye, Killian. This is it for Killian. Guys, you have to understand too, and although you may be correct there, we'll see what Killian does this season. The other part of it is they can technically play together. Like Marcus Sasser isn't the playmaker Killian is, and they're both great defenders. But you got Marcus, who is a hell of a shooter, and you got Killian Hayes, who's a hell of a playmaker and defender. Those two guys can share a backcourt. Killian Hayes is 6'5". Like Marcus Sasser and him can play together. But regardless, Marcus Sasser, I love it. I do, because you look at the point guard depth, at least on this team. I mean, as much as we all love Corey Joseph, yeah, you got to get some more depth there.
Do we love Corey Joseph as much as we love Corey Joseph?
No, I'm kidding there. But regardless, Killian Hayes, there's still question marks with Killian. You take Marcus Sasser. I love the pick. What are your thoughts on it when they traded up and got him?
Well, for the record, I still want Killian Hayes gone under just about any circumstance, because I still believe, even though Killian Hayes does have some strengths, that if you can't shoot 40% from the floor and 30% from 3, all of that weakness alone basically outdoes all of the strengths you might have. But to further your point, I can see a scenario in which Marcus Sasser and Killian Hayes can play together because they have different skill sets. If you're worried about shooting for the Detroit Pistons, Marcus Sasser already has it in droves. He shot 38% last year at Houston from 3, which is very, very good.
On like 6 attempts,
On 6 attempts. With Ausar Thompson, you worry about him developing more of a consistent shot. With Marcus Sasser, you already know that he has one. And you mentioned that Marcus Sasser, despite being 6'2" and listed in some spots as a point guard, he's not much of a playmaker. He is looking to score, and he is a tenacious perimeter defender. He's one of those guys that will just be a pest defending NBA guards. He's going to be one of those guys, and I saw Sean Murphy kind of say this about Anthony Black, but I think this applies to Marcus Sasser. Some NBA veterans are not going to want to play against a young, energetic Marcus Sasser going hard at them
right.
the whole game. So that all that being said, they could play together. Killian Hayes has better size and he's a better playmaker, and Marcus Sasser can shoot and Killian Hayes obviously cannot, and they both can defend. Obviously, I still want Killian Hayes gone, but that might be that pairing that he needs in the second unit when it comes to the point guard and shooting guard. I can talk myself into it. I don't love Killian Hayes still, but I can see the pathway, Jeff. I can see the pathway.
You sound like a lot of Pistons fans often.
I know.
There's always a pathway
Everybody
can see.
So is Sasser, just because I watched a lot of film on like the top, like the lottery guys, I didn't watch a lot of film on like behind that. So is Sasser going to be a guy that comes in and is able to play make too, or do you think he's going to be a guy that comes in as kind of like that burst off the bench, kind of like the campaign in Phoenix?
He's more of a burst off the bench guy, but also he's a better defender than Campaign. But for Sasser, he's a scorer. I think the playmaking side for Marcus Sasser is something that's not the reason why you drafted him. You look at the shooting, you look at the tenacious perimeter defense that he provides. Also, like there's a lot of things. You bring a guy like Marcus Sasser off your bench, if he turns into even a dependable NBA player, that's going to be a guy you like in the playoffs. Like guys that can come off your bench, defend, shoot the 3. Not saying he's Derek White, but guys like that come off the bench or can start. We'll see what Marcus Sasser's career looks like. But right now, I like the prospect. Now we'll see what he becomes.
Well, I mean, you even mentioned Derek White. You're not comparing him to Derek White.
No,
but
role.
If he becomes a Derek White type player at pick number 25, then it will have been a successful pick for the Detroit Pistons. And I think I like the pairing of Ausar Thompson and Marcus Sasser as a pair more than I did when I had just known that the Detroit Pistons had picked Ausar Thompson at number 5. As a pairing, I think they complement each other well, but we shall see. They both have a little bit in some ways of what each other doesn't. Hopefully they can impact the Pistons greatly even as soon as this season.
And shout out to everybody joining currently right now in the YouTube chat thread. Shout out to Mike G, Jesse Adams. We got John Lord in here, Kiazi, Jack Harrington. Appreciate you guys. Hoof-hearted. Mark Rowe. We got Booner in here as well. Again, appreciate you guys for tuning in today. Later in the show, we're going to get to more of this. We have Kool-Aid joining us to break down Troy Weaver's press conference and some of the things he kind of alluded to in that press conference, as well as we're going to talk about Troy Weaver and the temperature with Troy Weaver. We got to address that as well. And does this help Troy Weaver's case, or does it hurt his case? But before we do that, Sam, can you tell us about our friends over at Randy Wise?
Well, absolutely I can. And how would you like to see famous athletes like Jim Harbaugh, my coach, Darren McCarty, who sits in the seat from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. on Big D Energy, and the greatest wide receiver in Michigan history, Braylon Edwards, play golf? Play golf with average Joes like myself. Thanks to Randy Wise Automotive and Woodward Sports, you will be able to do just that. It's the Randy Wise Celebrity Golf Tour. Make the wise choice and pay attention to Woodward Sports for more info soon.
Introducing the Planet Fitness Guide to getting that post-workout glow. Step 1. What's your why? More epic energy? Better sleep? Blow off steam? Step 2. Join Planet Fitness for just $10 a month and get moving in our clean and spacious clubs. Step 3. Bask in that post-workout glow. Join Planet Fitness today for just $10 a month.
Join today at any of the 50-plus Detroit area locations.
Woodward Avenue, the first paved road in America. Woodward Sports, the first sports network born in Detroit and made for Detroit.
Welcome back. It's the Morning Woodward Show here on Woodward Sports Network. Jeff Iafrate, Sam Flannel, Matt Broder, and Lucas Klotz here post-NBA draft. The Pistons select Asar Thompson at 5 and Marcus Sasser at 25. But Sam Flannel, before we get to more in-depth of these draft picks, I do want to bring up, did you see Ermanni Bates? He finally got drafted.
He did get drafted.
He went in the second round. He went to Cleveland, but he found a home.
He did find a home, but
is Cleveland the right home?
With Ermanni Bates, I'm just glad he found any home at this point, because there was concerns that he was actually not going to be drafted. I hope that he can work things out, because at one time he was right up there in terms of the best prospects coming into college, with guys like Jabari Smith and Chet Holmgren and Paolo Banchero, and they all became early first-round draft picks. Ermanni Bates had to go to Eastern Michigan and try to find his own path, and then he got picked in the second round at the 49th overall pick to Cleveland. I really hope that he can work it out, because he is so talented, but man, he's got a lot of work to do, and so far it's been a little bit of a fall from grace, and nobody wants to see that.
It's crazy to think, too, Ermanni Bates, if you look at the numbers at the combine, or at least his workout, he's like the worst combine athlete in the history of the league. It was horrific.
I hate to say it.
It's so bad. And you look at what he was at Memphis when he started, the numbers significantly went down. Now, I was on board with taking a chance on him, but not at 25. I think he got a second-round pick. That's where he deserved to go, because there's a ton of question marks with Ermanni Bates, but had to bring that up. He got drafted. He's in Cleveland. Again, the lawyer that we brought up yesterday did not get drafted.
Oh, he didn't get drafted.
Just to confirm, I believe his name was Jordan, if I'm not mistaken, the lawyer out of Florida. He did not get drafted.
Are you sure that the Charlotte Hornets didn't take him?
I can confirm the Charlotte Hornets did not take him. They took Brandon Miller, which, again, don't mind it, but I think Portland's going to love Scoot. I really do. I can't wait.
Yeah, I do as well. I'm not going to kill the Portland picking. I'm not the Portland. Charlotte picking Brandon Miller. I think it was an okay pick. I like what he can do as that wing who can score, shoot threes, paired with LaMelo Ball. I don't necessarily hate it. I know that a lot of pundits and Charlotte Hornet fans were not happy with it, but I think Brandon Miller can be a star.
Do you guys think he's going to pan out? Brandon Miller?
Say?
There's a lot of questions around him right now, mostly around his IQ, especially after the Paul George comment. Do you think realistically, because this man is a lot like KD as far as his skill set, do you think Brandon Miller with Charlotte, with LaMelo, is going to pan out?
I think Brandon Miller provides instantly what Charlotte's lacking, which they need wings, they need shooting. They were one of the worst three-point shooting teams. So he helps. He's in need. Again, if you're Charlotte, and this is where I differentiate, because for the Pistons, they have a good foundation of young talent. You can afford fit, but there's a balance, fit with upside. For Charlotte, you just got to take the best player, to me at least. And I get it might be Brandon Miller to them, and we'll see what happens. But again, Scoot Henderson, he's in Portland, and regardless what happens with Dame Lillard, at least they got a franchise point guard. Even if they trade Damian Lillard, that's not a lot of franchises can trade away their franchise point guard and then go right to another franchise point guard.
Well,
That's a good thing.
Yeah, Scoot Henderson, the biggest concern with him, obviously, is his shooting. He has to be much improved with that. But Scoot Henderson has that prime Derrick Rose and Russell Westbrook type athleticism.
He does.
And he can play make, and he can finish at the rim. Scoot Henderson in a lot of drafts would have been the #1 overall pick. And hey, if you're Portland, you can create a young core with Shaedon Sharpe and Anthony Simons. Maybe get rid of Damian Lillard. Who knows? Or keep him. But we shall see. I think Scoot Henderson, and I think every single member of the top 3, they'll all pan out to some degree. I think every single one of them will at least make one all-star team. I know that's not saying a whole lot, but none of them are going to be busts to me.
I know you saw those Michigan players.
Oh, yeah.
That team that could win the NIT.
Oh.
And 2 Michigan they went both basically in the lottery.
They did.
Kobe Buffkin and Jett Howard.
Yes.
So we're going to get to that later in the show. Sam's going to let out some frustrations on that because I couldn't believe it either. Talent-wise, they got it. Juwan was there. Juwan witnessed with his own 2 eyes 2 players of his get drafted in the top 15, but they still couldn't win the NIT.
And they couldn't even make the NCAA tournament. And trust me, you are not going to want to miss my rant on this because some of the numbers that I'm about to give you are so damning that there's nothing you guys are going to be able to say that are going to be able to refute them because Michigan's basketball season last year, I still have open wounds in my soul from that disaster horrificness of a season. Broder, I know you're a Michigan fan. Hey, yep. Shots, explosives.
Yeah.
You know how bad it was.
Yeah,
it was
dude, I
horrific.
can't wait for this rant of yours. I mean, Juwan Howard might have been the loser of draft night when you look back at it.
He got his son his son was drafted number 11 overall, and it's still an indictment on him. Imagine being a father of someone drafted number 11 overall, and I'm just looking at him while Jett Howard's in that interview, and I'm just like, you MFer.
Were you surprised that Howard went 11?
I am surprised. I didn't think that he was number 11
over Dick? Over Grady Dick?
Over the Grady Dick, I know.
Come on.
Over Cam Whitmore, too. That was another one that was surprising. Yeah, I'm not saying that Jett Howard should have been the number 11 overall pick, but Jett Howard's another one of those wings that can score and showed a lot of it at Michigan. The problem with him is he's not much of a playmaker. He didn't rebound a lot, and he's still got to work on his being a wing defender. But he obviously has the length and the talent to do so.
Well, I think Grady Dick undisputedly is going to eat in the NBA. And he's going to the Toronto Raptors. He's going to Canada. So, shout out to Grady Dick. What do you got? He went 13. Yeah, 13. And we kind of... What were you going to say?
I would say the 13th pick, that has some legacy with it. You go down the names that have been there. You got Kobe, you got Donovan Mitchell, Devin Booker. I mean, Richard Jefferson. There's a couple of them. I forget. Me and Broder were going through them last night, and the 13th pick, NBA historically, is just fucking stacked.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only player besides Hendricks that I'd be happy if they took at 5 over Asar Thompson. Grady Dick, at least I'd be frustrated, but Grady Dick, I'd buy a Grady Dick jersey.
I would buy a Grady Dick jersey.
Listen, it is what it is. But I do want to stick with Asar Thompson because I want to make this point too, because Troy mentioned this also yesterday, his post-draft presser. They asked him, I think it was James Edwards III, if I'm not mistaken, asked him about Troy kind of hinting at this before the draft, but having multiple guys that can make plays with the ball. You look at the modern day NBA, it is what it is. You need multiple guys that can not only handle the ball, make plays, score at all 3 levels, and hopefully Asar's 3-point shot comes along, but he checks everything else. He's going to be a day 1, pretty elite perimeter defender. And
Agreed.
Troy also mentioned in his press conference too, having a guy like Asar Thompson takes the weight off of Cade and Ivy to guard the best perimeter player on the other team, which that's a super underrated part of this thing because even Hendricks, and I'll even admit this, he ain't guarding 1s and 2s. I mean, he ain't.
Right.
He can switch on them and guard them for a period of time for maybe a switch or situationally, but Taylor Hendricks isn't locking up. He's 6'9" with a 7-foot wingspan.
Yeah.
You get Asar Thompson, who's 6'7" with a 7-foot wingspan, who can move laterally and stay with guards and stay with wings. I think the defensive, because again, shooting is important. Don't get me wrong. You need shooting. But let's not act like we can absolve Cade and Ivy from those responsibilities as well. Those guys have to get better from the 3 as well. Now, are they ever going to be elite 3-point shooters? Probably not. But Asar Thompson, with what the skill set he provides defensively, for how bad this team was last year, Sam, defending it all, yeah, Asar Thompson is a need.
Well,
absolutely.
obviously, Asar Thompson, and I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing, he's going to come on the team and probably be one of their 3 best defenders, would you say? Maybe him, Cade Cunningham, Jalen Duren, maybe Isaiah Stewart?
He walks in as probably one of your better perimeter defenders.
Well,
I would say
that's-
he's better
yeah.
than Isaiah Stewart at perimeter, on the perimeter. He
Yes,
is.
100%. 100% at perimeter. And another thing that, to kind of piggyback off of what you were saying, Jaden Ivey has really never showed a propensity to be a good defender in the NBA. Obviously, he can get better, but you don't know that yet.
Right.
And with Asar Thompson, you hinted on it. Wing defense is going to be much improved. I think their overall defense is going to be improved. But to play devil's advocate for a second, because the Asar Thompson pick is obviously not perfect, and there is chances that it doesn't work out. What I'm concerned a little bit about, and you hinted on it, Cade Cunningham, despite how much we love him, he's never shown an ability to really be a good three-point shooter in the NBA yet. Jaden Ivey, he did shoot 34% last year, which is actually better than Cade Cunningham has ever shot, but I don't think anybody would say that Jaden Ivey projects to be a great three-point shooter yet, although we don't know. Jalen Duren, that's obviously not part of his game. We wonder if it'll ever be a part of his game, but who knows? Asar Thompson, like I said before, in a large sample size in the Overtime Elite regular season, he shot 30% from three, albeit with an NBA three-point line, and he greatly improved that percentage in the Overtime Elite playoffs to 39%. I'm not going to poo-poo that. That is excellent. But at the same time, there's a lot of players on the up-and-coming core for the Detroit Pistons that have never really shown that they can hit a three-point shot consistently. And that is a little bit of a concern for me. Honestly, their best prospects at three-point shooters moving forward are Alec Burks and Bojan Bogdanovic, two players who we don't know how much longer they're going to be on the team. The Pistons might look to move them. So that is the one concern about Asar Thompson. That is why even today, and I don't want to play this game because obviously Asar Thompson is ours and Taylor Hendricks is the Utah Jazz's now. I still would have made Taylor Hendricks the pick if I were Troy Weaver, just because he was such a great three-point shooter in college, 39%. Am I off base to be concerned about all that?
No, you're not. I think for Cade, though, to kind of get some specifics for it and get some, clarity on that, because I get where you're coming from percentage-wise. It hasn't been the most impressive, but Cade Cunningham, people forget, he's had 2 games in his career where he's hit 6 threes. And he's had 5 where he's hit 5 threes. And he's had 4 where he's hit 4 threes. Like, it's more streaky, but part of it is his rookie season. Coming off that ankle injury to start the season, percentages were really bad to start. And then the second year, he played a total of a handful of games, pretty much on one leg. Not trying to make excuses, but we haven't really seen a big enough sample size. That's the point I'm trying to make. He could be a 36, 37% three-point shooter, or, to your point, could be around a 34, 35. I don't know, but the fact that he's hitting threes at this rate, two games, again, career games with 6 threes, he has it in him.
Sure.
And I think I talked to Cannon Ashton at length a couple weeks ago. This is around the lottery time, and he's spending a lot of time this offseason working on his shot. So we'll see this upcoming season. But the whole point is, why I understand why people think that way. You drafted a guy who can't shoot. But you drafted a guy that can defend.
Sure.
Like, can we just forget that? This team could not stop anybody. They couldn't stop a nosebleed. So that's part of it. But again, Jaden Ivey, you said it, 34% three-point shooter his rookie season. He had a couple games where he hit 4 or 5 threes.
Sure.
So these guys, I think, have upside from 3, but we have to see it. So I'm not worried about it. I get there's concern because if you have a starting lineup of Cade, Ivey, Asar, whoever the 4 is, which might be a signing, might be a trade, and then the 5 is Duren, you don't have a lot of dependable three-point shooters. I get that, but you have multiple guys that can make plays with the basketball. And again, like Troy Weaver said, typically you bet on athleticism.
Sure.
If someone's a freak athlete, you bet on that because you feel the rest of it can be figured out. And I don't think Asar's shot can never be figured out. To your point, in the playoffs, he shot, 38%?
39. And I would agree with you. It's not as simple as Asar Thompson can't shoot. It's not as simple as Cade Cunningham or Jaden Ivey can't shoot, because they all 3, and 2 of them at the NBA level, have shown that they can shoot threes, especially with Jaden Ivey, better than almost you think he could coming out of college. And Cade Cunningham, I personally love his upside as a three-point shooter. I think at some point, I predict this season he is at least a 35% three-point shooter. And if he does that, that will do wonders for the Detroit Pistons. And I also think having a guy like Cade Cunningham, he's the type of point guard and playmaker that can get Asar Thompson some open looks, some easy, not easy, but some easier three-point opportunities. I like Ausar Thompson's upside as a three-point shooter. We haven't seen it as much as we saw it from like Taylor Hendricks, for example, and that's fair.
And that's fair. And again, if you're still stressing about the NBA draft, I got the place you can head to. It's our friends over at Dispo to kind of let the stress just kind of float away. And they'll be at Hazel Park, their location in Hazel Park, with the heavyweights and with Ermanni and Edwards with Maz. Go check it out. Go have some fun. They'll have some goodie bags, bud tenders, amazing bud tenders. They're going to be with you every step of the way, and make sure you get the best possible deals. Head over to Dispo today. You can visit disposhops.com, or you can visit disposhops.com for more information. It's your local plug for everything cannabis related.
The Sports Marketing Agency would not be who we are without great community partners like Higuera Health and Carol Zaniga.
It's an awesome opportunity to partner with your organization. Higuera Health is a comprehensive behavioral health organization. We serve children through older adults with mental health, substance use, and developmental disabilities across Western Wayne counties, and really excited to now be in downriver communities as well. Give us a call at 734-458-4601.
You have an opinion? Make sure it's seen and heard. Corner, jumper, tweet us, hop on the YouTube chat, slide in the DMS at Woodward Sports on all social media.
Yeah, these guys that we drafted are absolute Pistons, great human beings. They work their tail off, and I said it from the onset. We want discipline, development, and defense. And these guys fit that wholeheartedly. Asar, defensive mindset. Coach Williams and his staff will be able to develop this guy. He brings discipline, but he fits in the locker room. He's like these guys. He's selfless. He's about the right things, but he's a symbol of what we want to continue to be about here in Detroit.
And there you have it. That's the words from the wonderful Troy Weaver. You're back. We're back here on the Morning Woodward Show. Jeff Iafrate, Sam Flannel, Matt Broder, and Lucas Klotz. And again, guys, if you're tuning in live right now on the YouTube stream, thank you, number one. But number two, hit the like button. Subscribe if you haven't already. And if you can't watch live, it's all good. You can go back and re-listen to any of the live shows here on Woodward Sports, the network. And you can go back, Apple, Spotify, no matter what platform you use, you can do it. And don't forget, if you're watching on WoodwardSports.com, check out the latest news, articles, updates, show clips, and merchandise. And there you have it. Troy Weaver talking about Ausar Thompson, the draft pick. He also kind of, before he even got to anything basketball related, which I love, he talked about the human being. And that's something we saw also from Brad Holmes after the Lions draft. Character matters first. And I said this about Emoni Bates. Last night, it was on heavyweights and on the draft show. I just had a feeling that Emoni, there's no way he was getting drafted, because Troy keeps speaking a lot about this locker room, a lot about the players, a lot about what he's looking for. I don't think Emoni Bates, those character question marks, fits clearly what he's looking for. So again, Ausar Thompson, whatever question marks you may have, the human being category checks out. He's humble, if you heard him speak. Hard worker, Troy alluded to that as well. Comes from a great family. Again, what loves Detroit. He's told bad things about Detroit. I feel like this is a common thing. He had rumors, no, Detroit's this, Detroit's that. He said when he got to Detroit, he absolutely loved it. But again, this goes back. I mean, Ausar even mentioned also, which I thought was super interesting, he was a big fan of Cade the year he came out. I'm pretty sure he played with Cade as well at one point in time, at a younger age. And then his brother, Amen, who's now a Rocket, like Jalen Green at the time. So I'm not saying this rivalry is real, but come on. Like that ain't going to help it. You have Ausar, a Piston, who loves Cade, thought he should have won Rookie of the Year and should have went number one overall. And then you have Amen, who thought Jalen Green should have won Rookie of the Year and went number one overall. Regardless, I think it's ironic. But clearly a common theme here, Sam. Troy, he wants the human being first, and then the basketball comes after that.
Yeah, and for me, not to be an emotionless person, it only matters if they can play. And I think that Ausar Thompson will end up being a valuable contributor to the Detroit Pistons. At least he could end up being a star. Who knows? But he has that upside, and I really like what they the pick at 25 and Marcus Sasser, bringing in a guy who can shoot threes right away and can defend on the perimeter. I think as a combination, those two picks are good. And if they are good human beings, if they ingratiate themselves with the Detroit community, it will only make Pistons fans fall in love with them more. But at the same time, you got to play first. One of the reasons why Ermanni Bates wasn't on my draft board anymore was because his numbers at the combine were alleged to be really, really bad, and he didn't have a very efficient season at Eastern Michigan. I expected him to dominate more. It wasn't as much about his character. But character, it does matter if you can play. If you are a team player, it does matter if you are talented. So I'm not going to poo-poo that as nothing. But when I hear character first, there's a part of me that cringes a little bit, honestly.
Well, I'll just clarify. You don't draft a player just on character.
Sure.
Like, if it was that, I'd draft Grady Dick. I mean, clearly you're drafting Grady Dick, but you're drafting on talent plus character. And again, Ausar is super talented. There's no doubt about that. But again, the fact that he checks the character boxes, that's everything.
Yes,
you know, and there, look at that fit, by the way. Can you put that fit back up?
Put that back. I don't claim this, okay?
Why?
I'm saying that right now. This is not drip.
You know what that is to me? That looks like it's Grady Dick's season this upcoming year. That's what that looks like.
I don't know
there.
what that is. I don't claim it, and that's not drip. What do you think? You guys think that's drip?
No. I don't like it. And this is maybe being old man yells at clouds. I think if you have the honor of being drafted in the NBA draft, particularly if you're somebody like Grady Dick, who didn't even end up being a top 10 overall pick, see the rhyme there?
Shut up.
Bars.
You need to dress more professionally and not look like a character from The Wizard of Oz. I'm sorry. I think that matters a little bit. It does. Grady, I mean, who do you think you are, Grady Dick? You're not a top 5 overall pick. You're not Victor Wembanyama. You're not Scoot Henderson. You're not the Thompson twins. You're not Brandon Miller.
Well, Sam, when you could stroke it like Grady Dick, I don't think there's not much to dispute there. The outfit is questionable, I can't lie. The outfit is not it, but the confidence. You see the confidence? He walked around that draft like he owned it with that fit.
I cannot stand the outfit, okay? I put the buffs on because we're going to Dispo today. This is my way of being a little confident, but that's a whole nother level. This man is going to have so many, probably 8th grade through sophomore year kids just dressing like that, and they're going to look ridiculous, but you know what? He's got a brand now. Yeah. I don't think this man's going to be some all-star in the league. He's going to be a Kyle Korver, spot up and shoot, but you know what? He's got the Grady Dick brand. I guarantee this man's going to have shirts that just say Dick on it. And it's going to be socially acceptable, and that's all that's going to happen. He's going to be a millionaire off his last name alone.
Yeah. The NIL stuff, man, this should have only applied to Grady Dick, man.
Absolutely.
Sell Grady Dick t-shirts, sell merchandise, sell everything. Sell, hell, it don't even matter. Sell wallets. Yes. I don't give a damn. Sell everything. I would buy it. Another thing you saw yesterday was Cam Whitmore sliding, which I thought was super interesting. I did kind of call it, talked about it on the draft show in heavyweights. If there's one player I think will slide, now I didn't call him sliding to 20, but those medical records were legit. There was legit concerns, and he didn't have a great workout either in Detroit, and I'm assuming apparently didn't have a great workout for multiple teams. But Cam Whitmore, a guy that a lot of people wanted at 5, slid all the way into the 20s.
He did.
And got selected by the Houston Rockets.
Absolutely. But despite all of that, despite the legitimate medical concerns and the workout concerns, I like what the Houston Rockets did in that draft overall. I'm not a huge Amen Thompson person or Amen Thompson, but at the very least, the Houston Rockets, they needed that point guard. They needed someone that they can pair with Jalen Green. I think Amen Thompson and Jalen Green have a high upside in the backcourt. And what the Houston Rockets have been doing over the past couple of years is they've been collecting a lot of young, talented players like Kevin Porter Jr. and Jabari Smith, who did have a horrible rookie year for the record. But hopefully for the Rockets, he gets better. Tari Eason, Jayshawn Tate, Alperen Sengun, guys like that. And then you add Cam Whitmore and you bring in Ime Udoka as their head coach. It wouldn't shock me if the Houston Rockets just implode and become a dumpster fire, or if they are improved, because they do have a lot of talent. But as you saw last year, the talent, despite Kevin Porter Jr. and Jalen Green putting up numbers and Shane Goon putting up numbers, they didn't really fit together well. But the Rockets, they're collecting young, talented players. We'll see if it eventually works out for them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, you look at the rivalry, too. I kind of hinted at earlier. Chuck Brewer in the WoodwardSports.com chat thread kind of also hit on it. Detroit-Houston finals in the future is a story in the making. Cade versus Green and the Twins. It's a perfect story.
That would be a perfect story.
I mean, yeah, it's just kind of lining up. Again, it's rivalries to me are when teams are in the playoffs, when there's legit rivalries. Two great teams. Like, it's hard when two teams are picking top 5 in their rivalries. But Chuck, you are right. In terms of the narrative, it kind of is sliding that way. But regardless, I want to talk about Troy Weaver for a second here and the pressure he's under, or at least that people think he's under right now. How do you think last night affected that? Do you think picking Asar Thompson helps his case or hurts his case?
This is tough because with Troy Weaver, I'm more harsh on the 2020 draft than you are, but I can also acknowledge that Troy Weaver has done a lot to make up for that with his past 2 drafts. And let me just get this out of the way. It was not Troy Weaver's fault that the Detroit Pistons fell to number 5 in the lottery. Not at all. It's not Troy Weaver's fault that there wasn't a prospect available at number 5 who was going to excite the masses the way that Jaden Ivey did last year. I think we would all agree with that. It's not as celebratory of a mood today as it was this time of last year. And it's not Troy Weaver's fault that his prize pick and Cade Cunningham and their best player missed 70 games last season. So, and Chris Platty mentioned it, I don't know if it was on the heavyweights or if it was on your draft show last night. He said something that I thought was interesting, that the Detroit Pistons are not a real 17-win team. They're actually much better than that. They just were missing their best player last year. And if any team was missing their best player, they would obviously suffer for that.
Yes.
But the reality of the situation is, all of that aside, the Detroit Pistons had the worst record in the NBA last year. They have won 60 games in 3 seasons with Troy Weaver at the helm. So there is pressure, at least for Asar Thompson and Marcus Sasser, I think, to be contributing NBA players relatively quickly, and for that to translate into wins, because at some point you can't rebuild forever. You can't have another season where they're winning 20, 22, 25 games and we're talking about the lottery again next year. So there definitely is pressure. You can't keep stacking up these like terrible losing seasons forever. We can excuse a lot of it or make reasons for a lot of it, but I think this season and even continuing into this offseason is huge for Troy Weaver. They need to take a step. We need to see tangible results in the win column.
And also, this poll that is in the YouTube chat thread, you can go chime in and vote. It says, are you happy with the Pistons draft? Troy cooked or Pistons are still in poverty? It's about a 50-50 vote. So I want to get to this next segment, but before I do that, Sam, could you tell me where I can get a haircut?
Oh, of course I can. You got to go to Lady Jane's, of course, because Lady Jane's, they have all of the best stylists, and it's the best place to get my haircut, which I do from time to time, and it always has me looking this fly, especially on the day after draft day. hanging out with Jeff Iafrate, Matt Broder, and Lucas Klotz. I know I have to bring my A game, and you can get your A game too. And you could. How would you like to win not 1 but 2 vehicles of your choice? 2, unbelievable. 1 for you and 1 for your wife, your girlfriend, or your best bud.
Or Sam's boyfriend.
Hey, ring.
He's Klay Thompson.
Get to Lady Jane's today for an award-winning haircut and automatically enter for your chance to win, courtesy of Les Stanford Buick GMC of Ferndale. Lady Jane's open 7 days a week. Walk in anytime. It's wicked awesome.
By now you know me, Christina Gennari, as the obvious choice in real estate. And you know my website, soldchristina.com, as your #1 resource for buying or selling your home. Myself, along with my amazing staff, pride ourselves on making your home buying and selling experience a relaxing and easy one. Come see why we are the obvious choice. Christina Gennari at soldchristina.com, the obvious choice in real estate.
We are the network for Detroit by Detroiters. Welcome to the Woodward Sports Network.
We're off and running. It's the Morning Woodward Show here on Woodward Sports Network. Jeff Iafrate, your host, alongside me, Sam Flannel, Matt Broder in the audio booth filling in for JB. JB will be back on Monday. Appreciate you, Broder, for filling in. Always helping out the crew, man. Broder's a real one. He really is. And check out his work. WoodwardSports.com, articles he writes for the Lions.
The GOAT.
He's got the offseason covered, baby. Broder does. Lucas Klotz in the TD booth. Look at this man. From Toledo, he's energetic at 8 in the morning. He was like
Morning
this, I
guy.
bet, at 7 in the morning.
Oh, yeah.
This man does not get phased. So we got a packed show. I'm excited. We just covered Asar Thompson, Marcus Sasser, some other slides in the draft, some guys that we were shocked by. I want to stick with this Troy Weaver conversation because right now the poll is about 50-50. Are you happy with the Pistons draft? The two options, Troy cooked, or the Pistons are still in poverty. And again, I get the skepticism. I get the criticism. I get the concern for Troy Weaver, at least for the win column. Now, if you want to bring up acquiring young talent, that's where you lose me. Because so far during his tenure, the collection of players he's been able to get, you can talk about Killian being a bust, being a miss. That's fine. But you talk about now with Cade, Ivy, Duran, even Isaiah Stewart, who I think can be a great role player off your bench. Regardless, the roster he's constructed from what he started with, I'm telling you right now, you pull up that roster that Troy walked into, you talk about egregious, Sam. That's egregious, what he walked into. To now what it is now, you pick top 5, you get Asar Thompson, and now people are still going to find a way to be upset. I understand that. There's always going to be skepticism. Well, the guy can't shoot, but he can defend.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you watch the Pistons at all, and unfortunately, I watched 82 games of them last season. I'm still not recovering. But regardless, this team couldn't stop a nosebleed. And Asar Thompson comes in day one as one of your better perimeter defenders. And again, he's 20 years old. Like, you talk about all the stuff that he's missing. Oh, he can't shoot as well as I'd like him to. That stuff, we'll see. The shot looks solid. You assume with his work ethic that he can come around, at least be respectable. But if he is respectable, Sam, the other tools, the playmaking, what he can do defensively, the size, the length, everything that he provides, if he can just have a respectable shot, that's going to be a problem for the NBA.
Yeah, 30%. Yeah, 30% is definitely not good enough, even his rookie year, I would say, for Asar Thompson when it comes to three-point shooting. But you're right. The thing that I'm curious about is how many wins does just having Cade Cunningham and Asar Thompson defensively add to your team?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because last season, and this is why it's tough saying, they were the worst team in the NBA last season because there is context to that.
Of course.
Now, again, it's not about defending the Pistons, but is it facts or not facts? Cade was out the whole season.
It was facts.
That's
more
factual.
Or less, yeah.
That's not me BSing. That's factual. Your best player was out the entire season. The other part of that is they had 20 different starting lineups throughout the entire season.
Yeah.
So there's part of that which was on purpose, but also it does put more pressure, I will admit this, on Troy and on Monty now to get this thing going. Like Troy Weaver, as much, as I love what he's done in the draft via trades, like being a GM, he's done a pretty good job. Joe Dumars, we can bring up all the BS we want to bring up with Joe and his acquisitions, but Joe brought an NBA championship to Detroit. So that kind of overshadows everything else. For Troy Weaver, as much as he can hit on draft picks, the things that GMs are defined by are wins and losses.
Sure.
It's just, it is what it is. It's not, listen, I didn't choose the game. The game, it is what it is. The game made itself. So GMs are judged by what you accomplish in the postseason and eventually, to some GMs, winning an NBA title. So for Troy Weaver, it's not about defending this man until my deathbed. You have to be realistic. He's done more than prior GMs in terms of evaluating talent in the draft. But the win column, that's what he has to get right. And I think Monty Williams is the right hire. So that, I think, will come quicker than people think.
Yeah, the wins total for Troy Weaver, to kind of piggyback off of that poll, is the very definition of poverty, unfortunately. 60 in 3 seasons for a grand total of 20 per season. That is arguably worse than poverty when it comes to an NBA franchise. But at the same time, you mentioned it earlier, and I'm glad you brought this up because I didn't even bring this up. What Troy Weaver walked into with the bad contracts and having to get the books right first, that is a big deal. It was bad. It was horrific, and Troy Weaver has basically done just that. And I think this is the season in which you see tangible growth from guys like Cade Cunningham, Jaden Ivey, Jalen Duren, especially having an upgrade at coach and Monty Williams, who was one of the prizes of the offseason. I think that is going to be huge for this team. And we'll see if Asar Thompson and Marcus Sasser can help this team right away or if they're more works in progress. I think defensively, the Detroit Pistons can be much better just by adding those two and with Cade Cunningham coming back because they all are very, very capable to good perimeter defenders. We obviously haven't seen it with Thompson and Sasser in the NBA yet, but I think defense is something that will translate. So, but that also amps up the pressure a little bit on Troy Weaver. bringing back healthy Cade Cunningham, hiring the coach, having a young core, which we all like, and drafting 2 players who provide certain sets of skills that can help this team. Although all that below 30 win stuff, that has to go away at some point. This is not a forever rebuild.
No, it's not. It is not a forever rebuild. And again, Tom Gores has shown he's serious about winning. So it's not even about what we think of Troy. If Troy can't produce a winner, Tom's going to be all over that. I mean, Tom wants to win. And you look at the roster. I want to go back and look what Troy walked into. It's crazy to think about, too. The year before Troy got there, you know who the 3 leading scorers were?
Oh, boy.
Let's
Drummond.
let Flannel guess first. Let's make a little thing out of it. Flannel,
you guess. Guess the 3 leading scorers.
Man.
Oh, man. Andre Drummond, Reggie Jackson, Blake Griffin.
Andre Drummond, Luke Kennard, who played 28 games that season, but regardless, and Blake Griffin. And this was the COVID year, I'm pretty sure. But regardless, Andre Drummond, Luke Kennard, Blake Griffin. And now 2 of those guys had terrible contracts. Blake Griffin's contract, you still ate cap space even after he was gone. And Andre Drummond, my goodness, the contract he was signed to was ridiculous. You ended up trading him away for a second-round pick. But the point is, you go down the list, Tony Snell, Bruce Brown, who they let him get away, I'll admit that, great player. Derrick Rose, Langston Galloway. I mean, I like Langston, but come on. Brandon Knight, Svi Mikhailuk.
Ooh.
Oh, my God.
Don't forget about Svi Mikhailuk, everybody. Like, this is what he walked into. So, again, you look back and reflect on what this roster looks like. Plenty of young talent. Now, the offseason starts, and you have money available. And, again, this is a part of Troy's job. You can't botch the offseason, especially in free agency. So, the draft, I think we can say we're okay with what he did. I like Asar a lot. Even if people don't like the pick, you have to at least understand why he did it.
Sure.
You have to understand the why. Like D-Mac always says, if you understand the why, it's easier to digest. Even if you're like, Asar Thompson, why? And then you think about it and you're like, well, out of all the players that were available at 5, he has the highest upside. It makes the most sense. What's up, brother?
I just want to shout out 2 guys in the chat. And I was muted. Just want to shout out 2 guys in the chat. Made some comments about what you're talking about. Shift God said Weaver is a cap artist. And then right below that, Wheezy D313 said Troy Weaver is Brad Holmes. You're just talking about, him being tactical with what he's about to do in free agency and building this team.
Yeah.
Are there any connections you see to how Troy Weaver is approaching this team to Brad Holmes, or what do you think about that?
I think the biggest thing, and again, I know people are going to be like, oh, don't compare him to Brad Holmes. But again, in terms of evaluating talent, it's different drafts, because the NBA draft, it's majority of everything's in the first round. You typically don't find Jokic's every year.
Not even the first
NBA
round,
draft,
it's like the first 10.
Right. So for Brad, you have 7 rounds, and we've seen Brad find talent at all pretty much every round. I mean, he doesn't have really any misses. He has probably Levi maybe, if you want to bring that up. But regardless, Troy and Brad have done a pretty good job finding talent. Now Brad, though, they won 9 games last season. There's the difference.
I was about to say.
That's the obvious one.
Yes.
They won 9 games. Now, if they came out and won 4 games, I don't even think it'd be more on Brad. I think people would still look at Dan, to be honest with you. Because Brad, again, if you look at what a GM's supposed to do, trades, free agency, drafting, getting the head coach right, which Brad didn't hire Dan Campbell, so there's part of that as well. But Brad's pretty much hit on everything so far. Free agency, he's done a good job. Trades, he's done a good job. Drafting, he's done a good job. Troy Weaver, drafting, for the most part, he's done a pretty good job. Finding young talent. Trades, he essentially fleeces most people he trades with. You go back and look at the trades and look at them for yourselves. Free agency, we haven't seen yet. So Troy's, I don't think he's on the level of Brad, but he's probably a tier below him, but he's working his way up. I think Brad and Stevie, to me, are in this. Stevie, number 1, but Brad and Stevie kind of separate themselves from Troy and Scott Harris right now. They just do.
Yeah, I was about to say, I think the Troy Weaver and Brad Holmes comparison, I can understand it in some ways, but I think we need to pump the brakes a little bit, because Brad Holmes so far really hasn't had a miss when it comes to his draft picks, besides maybe Levi Onwuzurike, but what they did was make up for it in the 3rd round by getting a Lee McNeil, who at least has been a solid starter at the defensive tackle position. Brad Holmes has been a wizard with the draft. When it comes to Troy Weaver and the Detroit Pistons, I think Killian Hayes was a colossal miss. Obviously, he was to this point. He was drafted to be the Pistons franchise point guard, and so far he hasn't shown an ability to even hit 40% from the floor and 30% from 3. Not once in his entire career. And that is egregious at this point. And I don't like the fact that Sadiq Bey was one of his picks, and now he got traded. He's off the team. Isaiah Stewart, I'm not as high on him as you, but I can see a pathway to where he becomes a rotational player if he can work on his three-point shot a little bit more. And to be fair, as much as I don't like him and I don't think he's going to be on the team when they are ready to win, it's not like he was a top 5 pick. He was the number 16 overall pick. I'm still mad they passed on Tyrese Maxey, though, but I wasn't calling for that at the time. To be fair.
And I'm not saying Troy is in the conversation with Brad and Stevie Y. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is the disrespect, like Troy Weaver's Troy Weaver's not even the best GM in Detroit. It's like, dude, it's not about that. Troy Weaver's, by the way, if you can appreciate what he's done in Detroit, then that really proves that Pistons fans don't know a good thing, even if it slapped them in the face. Like, I'm serious. Like, I know the wins are one thing, but if you can't appreciate the job Troy's doing, I don't know what to tell you. Would you rather have Stan Van Gundy?
No.
You can have Stan Van Gundy.
No, absolutely.
Would you rather have Ed Stefanski? You can have Ed Stefanski as your GM. He's still in the front office, but regardless, Troy as a general manager, now hiring Monty Williams alongside with Tom Gores, of course. But Troy made the phone call to Monty. Like, I get, like, it's fun and it's trendy to hate on Troy Weaver right now, but if you can't actually look and go through everything he's done, evaluate every move, and come out with an outcome other than he's the worst GM, he's this and that, it's like, dude, you're just simply hating to hate. It's very simple. I'm not saying he's the best GM we've ever had, but come on, he's doing a damn good job. He is, for the most part.
If you say that he's a poverty GM, I think that that's complete and utter nonsense at this point. But I also would have to say that when you say that you have to appreciate what Troy Weaver has done, I agree with you. But that's assuming that eventually these good picks and this getting those players off the books and those acquisitions turn into wins. I can't stress this enough. In the win column so far, it has not been pretty for Troy Weaver, and it's actually worse now than it's ever been. Obviously, there were a ton of different reasons for that, with Cade Cunningham's injury being number one to that. But at the same time, Troy Weaver, I think before he enters that echelon of trust him no matter what, the Pistons have to show tangible improvement in the win column. I think they will. I think hiring Monty Williams, that was a huge step in the right directions. It was the time that the Detroit Pistons needed to swing for the fences. I remember at one point, take us back to about a couple weeks ago, when I was worried as hell that the Pistons were going to go after Kevin Ollie and make them their head coach. And no disrespect to him, but Kevin Ollie, Monty Williams, right? We're all much more excited about Monty Williams.
Absolutely.
That's huge.
And for context of the whole, like, Monty versus the three they had and they talked to, like, people act like Troy was dying on a hill for Kevin Ollie. He even said, and Tom and Troy Weaver also talked about this, Troy called Monty. Monty said it himself. Troy called Monty. Like, people act like Tom came up to Troy and said, hey, I want Monty. And Troy's like, hell no. I don't want Monty. I want my guy Kevin Ollie. That's not what happened. Troy, they didn't think Monty was available. They thought Kevin Ollie, Charles Lee, and Jaron Collins, that they thought that's all they had. Mm-hmm. And then you got Monty Williams. So people, I don't know. Again, I suggest go reading James Edwards III, Rod Beard, Mike Curtis. Like, the more you read these guys' articles, I swear you'll learn a lot more. Just do it. Because I get the whole Troy Weaver being concerned with the win total. That's fine. Wins, I understand. This season, they have to win at least 30 games.
I agree.
You got to make improvement. You got to, I would say, roughly double your win total from last season. And then after that, you continue to improve. Like, this doesn't absolve Troy from any criticism, but just sitting there and hating on Troy to hate on him like he hasn't turned this complete roster around, which to me is just ignorant. It really is.
Yeah, and it takes younger players a lot of time to develop in the NBA, and all of the core pieces are still very, very young. Cade going into his third year, and Jaden Ivey and Jalen Duren into their second. And you mentioned about Monty Williams and how there were some rumors that it was more Tom Gores and Monty Williams really wanted Kevin Ollie. The reality of the situation is, who is your head coach right now? It is Monty Williams. He is the guy that was pretty much universally lauded as one of the better options for the Detroit Pistons. Even though the Pistons had to overpay for him, it doesn't matter. They took a swing. They took out their big bats and went for the top dog, which is something that I really wanted the Pistons to do, and is a sign that they are concerned about winning sooner than maybe even a lot of Pistons fans thought that they were.
And again, I want to get to some of these comments before we go to break, because when we get back, Kool-Aid will be joining us soon.
Let's go.
For some back-to-back segments. He was at the Troy Weaver post-draft press conference, so you're going to want to hear his thoughts on that. But before, I want to get to some of these comments, too. People chiming in. Lonnie Hooper says, Troy convinced Monty to stay away from retirement, fellas. That's true.
Fair.
Along with the money. as he so eloquently stated. Yeah, Lonnie Hooper's absolutely right. Let's see. Shift God said he ain't turned no roster around. Well, you have Google, correct, Shift God? Go back, Google the 2019 Pistons roster and compare it to what they are now. Just do me a favor. It'll take probably, what, a minute, 2 minutes? And you could just answer that question for yourself. Paul Thomas says, we had 18 wins, Jeff. Nothing has turned around. Again, if you have no context of anything, then you can say things like that. But again, if you're missing your best player, 18 wins, it's not great, but they essentially tanked the last 30 games. They gave up. They essentially rested all of their best players. I get the concerns for the win total. Trust me. But I'd be more concerned, Sam, if you had a healthy roster and you won 18 games, 17 games. Yeah, I'm concerned.
Yeah, kind of like the Houston Rockets did last year.
There you go. That's perfect.
Yes.
Or even Charlotte losing LaMelo. Like when you lose your best player, typically you just kind of write off the season. Not saying that we're going to accomplish anything, but it does matter, guys. If you actually watch the NBA, one player like Cade Cunningham can pretty much dismantle a whole season. The NFL, if you lose Aleem McNeil, you can bounce back. I mean, it's like losing Jared Goff, essentially. It ruins your season.
It's your point guard.
Yes, it's not only your point guard, that's your franchise. Like, people just kind of assume, yeah,
The
Cade's
#1
out.
pick.
Killian, get in there. Let's win 35 games.
Oh, God.
That's
Can't
not how that
trust
works.
that.
Like, come on, guys. Come on. We'll go to break. When we get back, again, we're going to be talking to Kool-Aid. But before we do that, I got to tell you about our friends over at SMA. The sports marketing agency helps spread awareness about mental health and substance abuse. Their new podcast, This is the S Word, helps fight the stigma about seeking help. If you or someone you know is struggling, head to thesportsma.com for more information.
How would you like to win not one, but 2 vehicles of your choice? One for you and one for your wife, your girlfriend, or your best bud. Get to Lady Jane's today for an award-winning haircut and automatically enter for your chance to win. Courtesy of Les Stanford Buick GMC of Ferndale. Lady Jane's, open 7 days a week, walk in anytime. It's wicked awesome. Woodward Avenue, the first paved road in America. Woodward Sports, the first sports network born in Detroit and made for Detroit.
He adds to our culture. We got a great person, tremendous worker, tremendous human being. Great athlete. On top of being, we think he has a chance to be an elite defender on the perimeter. How he meshes with those guys is, I think he'll take a lot of pressure off of Cade and Jaden being able to defend the best perimeter player on the other team. But he's more than a defender. He's dynamic with the ball. His offense is really underrated, and I think you'll see it in time. But we're excited. I mean, to get this kind of player that can do so many things. He's an all-court athlete, just not explosive in space. He's all over the floor. So he brings a lot to the table, and we needed this player.
We're back here on the Morning Woodward Show, Woodward Sports Network. Jeff Iafrate, Sam Flannel. For the Morning Woodward Show, again, guys, if you're watching live on our YouTube channel, hit the like button, subscribe, show some love. Continue to chime in to the YouTube chat thread. People are going crazy in it. I love it. I absolutely love it. This is why we talk sports, for these types of conversations. But if you can't watch live, you can go back, re-listen to the podcast, Spotify, Apple Music, any app you listen to where you can get podcasts. And the other part of this is, if you're on WoodwardSports.com, go check out our amazing articles, latest news, updates, show clips, and merchandise. But joining us, the very delightful Pistons beat writer from Woodward Sports, Brandon Dent. You were,
I appreciate that, brother.
Have you slept?
Not really.
I don't.
This man
I'm so tired, man.
Sent me a selfie at like probably a little bit after midnight last night, saying,
"Yeah,
tired,
we were at the
but I'm
performance
still
center,
here."
brother.
This man's been grinding.
And again, Matt, if you could pull his mic volume up a little bit, just people are saying they can't hear him. But Brandon, I want to start with the question because we just saw Troy Weaver's comments about Asar and the impact that he expects him to have. And he had a lot of nuggets in his presser. And I think he kind of broke down a lot of the questions, at least for me as well. I know people are still skeptical because they're always going to be skeptical, but he did answer a lot of the questions that I had. Number one, it was the shooting part of it, and he kind of alluded to the athleticism, and he feels that if you have a guy that athletic with that many tools, especially when he's shown improvement with his shot, he can figure some of that out. But the biggest part, or the biggest thing I took away, is the statement he made about helping Cade and Ivy guard the best player on the opposing team. And that's something I can even admit. Hendricks ain't doing that. Jarris ain't doing that. Like a guy who can guard point guards and two guards on a consistent basis. What does Ausar's fit look like in Detroit?
Listen, I want to talk about that athleticism on the offensive side of things and how excited some of us kind of got. You know, we were talking about what he can add. We were talking about it on the show last night. Troy was ecstatic about what his athleticism is going to mean to the defensive side. And it wasn't even like helping Cade and Ivy defend the best player. It was taking the pressure off those guys. Like, hey, y'all go worry about what you're supposed to worry about. I'm defending the best player. This was one of the biggest, we called it the #1 issue that the Pistons had to solve when Jeremy Grant was traded. We all like the haul for Jalen Duren. We like Bojan Bogdanovic and what he could be as a shooter. But they needed somebody on that wing who could go out there and absolutely shut down or at least make it tough on players like Giannis. This division is stocked full of those types of guys. And Troy believes, like 100%, that Ausar Thompson is that guy. He really does.
And also on top of that, the thing that I think is the most intriguing about Ausar is when Troy talked about the modern-day NBA, and he alluded to kind of the death lineup for the Golden State Warriors. And again, I'm not going to compare it. I don't want to compare it at all because you have two of the greatest shooters of all time. But I'm talking about the philosophy there and he brought up Iguodala. And I have to say this. Yesterday, Chris brought up Iguodala on heavyweights, and I just sat there and I'm like, I don't know if I love that. But people forget Iguodala early on in his career was an 20-point scorer.
That's the nuance there.
Yes. We think of Iggy in modern day times. Of course, Iggy especially with Philadelphia, he's a completely different player. So with that comparison, using Ausar the way they're going to use him, having multiple guys on the court at all times that can make plays, like kind of speak on that a little bit. Because Ausar compared to Taylor Hendricks, Jarris Walker, I think he has the best playmaking. He, as a perimeter defender, he's the best. He's the most athletic. So I think there's a lot of things that he checks off. But what about that comment he made about having multiple guys on the court at once that can make plays with the basketball? Key word, with the basketball.
Listen, he's been true to his word. We've been saying it all the time. Troy Weaver, he's telling the truth. He said this at his exit interviews. He would take 5 guys on the court who can create at all times, who have that basketball IQ. And Ausar Thompson, he fits that mold. What they're able to do offensively now, I feel like the Pistons are trying to redefine what stretching the floor means. You know, it's not just if you can hit the three or stand in the corner and hit the three. We've seen the Pistons kind of run through those types of prospects, and if they couldn't hit that three, we just kind of discarded them. But if this player can play make from their spot on the floor, when they catch it, when Cade opens up the space because of all the gravity he's going to collect, what is Ausar Thompson? Troy sees him as somebody who is never going to be in a pinch when I hear him talk. Andre Iguodala was somebody that we never saw in his Philly days get into a pinch. Even the way he dribbled, man, I used to think, oh, he's about to lose that or somebody's about to steal that, and he just never did. He was always solid. So from an offensive standpoint, he's a guy who's going to play make, he's going to distribute, but I think he's looking to score. Like, I know they say he has his playmaking knack, but I want him to actually go out there and look to get that 18 to 20 points per game, use that athleticism. And Troy said something real interesting about his athleticism. And it's something we said about Ivy too. NBA spacing gives guys like that, it's a trampoline in the middle of the floor. He said he not only has, athleticism in space, but all over the floor. When you're talking about half-court sets and what you're able to do, we kept talking about why aren't they doing any, dribble drive, dribble handoffs, backdoor cuts for Ivy, getting their athletic guys like Duren going. Well, you know what? They're talking about with Monty being able to do a little bit more of that. And Ausar Thompson's a guy who you can throw the ball up to him. He'll catch it. He'll get it. He's dunking that. He's a guy you can, when Cade drives and kicks it out to the corner, he's one of those pump fake, one dribble, and I'm dunking on you guys. Like, that's who Ausar Thompson is, or at least what Troy Weaver is telling us he can become.
Absolutely. I agree with you. I think Ausar Thompson is going to be better served off the ball, especially getting good looks from guys like Cade Cunningham and Jaden Ivey. That is for sure.
Yeah.
Let's go to the other side of the ball, because I'm looking at Asar Thompson and a healthy Cade Cunningham, presumably, and even Marcus Sasser. How much could those three help them on the defensive side of the ball?
Man, hold on. Marcus Sasser, man, what a pick. We couldn't talk about him last night because they're still working through some things. Hopefully we get to talk about him today. But we kept talking about the fact that Stewart was kind of like the one player we could identify on the defensive side of things that had that dog in him, and they needed to start to add more people that have that trait. Detroit sports is not about us yapping about only having one guy. Ben Wallace, well, he was that deal, but we knew that team from Lindsey Hunter to Rasheed Wallace was stocked full of guys that had that dog.
Oh, yeah.
Adding Marcus Sasser, man, I am ecstatic. Like, we're not dealing with confidence issues, and we have a guy who wants to go out there and shoot the ball. And seriously, I wouldn't be surprised when he comes in if he's like, yo, I want the best player. I'm like, he's not even the tallest guy, but I just love the heart he plays with. So Marcus Sasser, man, what a pick. I think we upgraded our defense and our depth last night. I really do.
And can you talk to Marcus Sasser and Killian Hayes? Because I laughed because last night you knew it was coming. They drafted Marcus Sasser. It's like, hey, Killian, time's up, buddy. Time's up. But if you think about it, they could play together.
Yes.
You look at Marcus Sasser, the strengths he provides on the court compared to what Killian does. Killian's a better playmaker. Killian's bigger. He's a combo guard essentially, but so is Marcus Sasser. And I heard someone say this, and I think it's spot on. Body type, he's a point guard. Play style, he's a two guard. His shooting ability, his tenacious perimeter defense. I think him and Killian together. Now it's up to Killian if he wants to stick around. We agree there. He has to improve this year, specifically those efficiency numbers from three. Significantly. But how can those two guys fit together? And what does this mean for Killian? Is this the end of Killian because they drafted Marcus Sasser?
Listen,
or is this Corey Joseph's replacement?
That's what I've been preaching for when I was talking about Scoot Henderson. I was like, yo, even if he had to come off the bench, if we so happen to land with number 2 and number 3, I was hoping we could land a guard, land a wing, because I do believe that Killian Hayes is the type of guard who can play next to combo and dynamic guards. I do. I believe in that. But I think about Mike James and Lindsey Hunter from the 2004 Detroit Pistons teams and how dynamic those guys were, and where did it start for these guys? Defensively. Yes. Killian Hayes needs to go back to where he started last season to open in the season interviews, where he said he wanted to be a defensive leader. And I remember I kind of breezed past that. And Jeff, you were the one who was like, yo, I'm more concerned. I like the fact that he's saying he wants to be a defensive leader. He needs to get back to that, because he and Marcus Sasser off the bench, bro, they could raise Cain. Like, seriously. I want to see that. I do. But Killian got to get his head together, man. He got to get his head right. I think he is. When I saw him at the Monty Williams presser, he just seemed light on his feet, man. Like he's not necessarily worried or about the noise on the outside. And so I do believe that this is more or less something that it doesn't push him down the depth chart. I think it just kind of replaces Kojo in the lineup. It gives us a dynamic backcourt off the bench as well.
You know, Brandon, that's all well and good, and Jeff, that's all well and good, but I've been known as one of the biggest Killian Hayes haters, probably in Detroit sports media, and I haven't backed off of that yet, because I still have never seen him shoot 40% from the floor and 30% from three, and I am never going to stop saying that until he does it. But you and Jeff, Kool-Aid, you and Jeff have warmed me up to the idea
I appreciate that.
That he could be effective besides a guy like Marcus, pairing up with a guy like Marcus Sasser, because they do have different skill sets. Killian's got better size, is a better playmaker. Marcus Sasser is a better shooter. They both can defend. I think Marcus Sasser is a little bit more tenacious, but he is undersized. So is there a pathway to where this works, even if Killian Hayes is not much of a shooter?
Definitely, because I don't know how much he's trying to shoot, man. Like, he's just trying to go out there and play defense. That's what we see.
What does he have to be? Does he have to be a respectable three-point shooter? Because I think if you're a liability out there, that's a problem. But what is Killian in terms of just being respectable? Is that fair? If Killian can get to 34% from three.
Oh my God, 34%.
We'll take it.
Listen,
we'll take it.
He's shown it, and the coaches have continued to say it's not a skill or a talent issue. It's just up top. That's what makes me a little bit more bullish on Killian Hayes than others, because we've seen extreme stretches of good basketball. So we want to see him shoot over 40 and 30. He's had those stretches for 20 and 30, games of seasons, especially that second half of Cade's rookie year. Killian was a big contributor for them actually going 10-14. I know that we can scoff at it, but that's been the best stretch of Troy Weaver's tenure. And Killian Hayes had a big part to play in that. You go back and look at the runs. He also had a really nice stretch this season. Now, he's dealing with a lot. As a playmaker, who was he out there to play make with?
Sure.
Killian Hayes was one of the more talented ball handlers on the squad, and if I'm a defense, you know who I'm going to tee off on? Killian Hayes.
Right.
And then when the defense tees off or doubles or flusters or runs these shadow sets where they always keep a spy on Killian Hayes, nobody else is hitting anything. Killian Hayes has some of the most bad luck, like misses off of his assists ever. It's like, man, he's passing to guys, getting guys open, and there's misses. He has to become a better shooter. I agree with that, but I don't think that comes while the team is kind of devoid of talent. I think that they have to get their guys on the court, and where we've seen Killian Hayes the best is when there's been more talent on the floor, and I think that is true of a lot of players in the NBA.
I'm going to read 2 of these comments. Could you stick around? You got time?
Oh, I got time.
All right, we're going to talk about free agency in a little bit. But
Well,
before, I'm going to read some of these comments.
Run.
Chuck Brewer says, Jeff, where does Burke fit in with the Burke-Hayes choice? I'm assuming for Marcus Sasser. I don't think Marcus Sasser is going to be game 1 of the NBA season. He's not going to be a significant part of this rotation. I think that's something you kind of bank for in the future, especially with this season. I don't think it's smart to roll out there with a mostly, if you have an 8-man rotation, 6 of them all, pretty much 20-year-olds. You got to have some adults in the room. I think Burks deserves to play over Marcus Sasser, but I like Sasser for the future. I do, eventually. The other part of this I want to get to, Lonnie Hooper, he's been on fire today, by the way. Shout out to Lonnie Hooper. He brought up Killian and Marcus Sasser. Is that a Lindsey Hunter, Mike James?
I love that. I love
Lonnie
that
Hooper's been on
comparison,
point
man. I want these guys to look ahead. Like, I want these guys, if they're talking about a restoration, go back and look at how some of these guys played, because it was with that fabric that we call Detroit sports. That's what those guys play with. That's why we resonated so much with them. We gave them nicknames and all that, the alternators and all that stuff. It was like, what were they? The dog pound? Off the bench, man. The pit bulls, I believe it was the pit bulls. They came off the bench, and other teams, man. I remember being in the arena, and other people were just like, oh my gosh, because you got to deal with Chauncey Billups and Richard Hamilton, who are just, they're defensive wizards themselves. And then these guys are coming off the bench with an absolute tenacity. You knew our offense, and they talked about this, is going to come from the fact that we're going to rip you. I'm getting all mine in transition. We're going to make it difficult on you. That's what I want to see from Killian and Sasser. And if Sasser, honestly, I think he can contribute that way from day one. I'm going to wait to see what Troy says at the presser, if they can talk about it today. But I'm very interested in Marcus Sasser. I do believe that when you talk about a home run, you talk about it, man. We said, I'm not going to be surprised if Troy Weaver trades back in and gets 2 first-round picks, man. We talked about this.
We did.
And when we asked him the question at the presser, that was the one thing we were like, listen, just like your first draft when you saw a couple people down in Sadiq and Isaiah Stewart, and just like how Doran fell and you knew we have to get that guy, was there anyone that you see in this draft? And he looked us dead in the face and was like, yeah. I think Marcus Sasser is that guy, and he really believes. He was glowing last night at the press conference talking about these guys.
And awesome. Listen, Marcus Sasser, Killian Hayes, both great defenders, but none of them match up to Guardian Alarm. It's just, that's the truth. Guardian Alarm is reliable, it's dependable. And also, guys, they got customized solutions from real experts, 24/7 professional monitoring, and technology backed by people. Your safety and security deserves technology that's not only been proven to work, but by people that have been proven to care. Call 1-800-STAY-OUT today for more information.
Love Woodward Sports? Love wearing clothes? Then you should be wearing Woodward Sports clothes. Check out our full line of merch at woodwardsports.com. Just click on shop. We have all your favorite designs, like Dan Campbell kneecaps, Woodward golf, and of course, our own logoed out merchandise. Men, women, infants, kids, all love Woodward Sports. Impress your friends. Impress your boss. Impress your dog. Buy Woodward Sports merch today.
Big Boy Strawberry Fest has officially arrived, and we're here to show you the very best flavors of the season. Satisfy your sweet tooth with our deep-fried vanilla Oreos, strawberry hot fudge cake, and a slice of our classic strawberry pie. But that's not all. Cool off on a refreshing summer splash salad, or savor the flavors of our chicken Caesar wrap and strawberry bacon chicken wrap. And for breakfast lovers, don't miss out on our strawberry hotcakes or our mouth-watering red velvet waffle. Strawberry Fest is something for everyone. Celebrate the sweet season with us at Big Boy.
Cruising here into the second hour of the Morning Woodward Show. Jeff Iafrate, Sam Flannel. This is post-NBA draft, the draft show. Thank you to everybody for joining us. Again, if you're watching live, subscribe, like the YouTube stream. Thank you for tuning in. If you can't catch us live, it's all good. You go back and re-listen on any podcast platform you listen to, Spotify, Apple Music. And don't forget to check out our website, woodwardsports.com. Wonderful articles, updates, live news, and merchandise, and much more. Go check that out. We're joined by Detroit Pistons beat writer of Woodward Sports, Brandon Dent. We just got done breaking down the draft, breaking down Asar and Marcus Sasser. But let's get to where, this is where we're heading next. It's free agency. That's the other part of this. It's a two-parter for Troy Weaver in this offseason. Get the draft right and spend the money right. Because I think the money is something that's super important. You spent time getting cap space and clearing cap space. I want to talk about some potential guys this offseason. Number one, we'll just start with Troy. How much pressure is on Troy this offseason, specifically in free agency, to kind of fill this roster out? Because the draft, we can say did a good job so far. Asar Thompson, Marcus Sasser, we like the prospects. But the other part of it is, Kool-Aid, is getting some more adults in the room. I think that's the other part of this.
Yeah, and he's spoken on that as well, getting some more vets, getting some more NBA-ready guys, with Asar and these guys. He said that there is some nuance that they're going to have to learn. And if you read between the lines, that means that they're going to have some vets, like you alluded to earlier, like Alec Burks, that can play day one and keep this ship afloat for guys like, Jaden Ivey, Jalen Duren, Cade Cunningham. So that we don't have this kind of, they got to get their legs underneath them with the young guys. So, from that perspective, I'm hoping that the Pistons have their eyes set on 2 or 3 veterans. Maybe a splash and a couple people with exceptions that they can bring in and honestly compliment them well. I'm thinking
who's some guys you're thinking of? Talk to me.
You know who I love, man.
Besides Jeremy Grant, which I agree. Now, post-draft, he makes the most sense. I mean, Jeremy would fill immediately. 3-point shooting, 40% last year on 7 attempts. And listen, as much people want to say for Jeremy Grant when he was here, he would be a different role now coming back to Detroit. And they were interested. They were interested in Jeremy Grant. They were calling.
Hey, you saw the reports, right? Is that the Detroit Pistons are going to be one of those teams, it said most notably, that have the opportunity to kind of make this a match for the Blazers. That they have called, at least. It was who? It was from Hoops Hype article. I apologize, I don't remember the editor, but they are interested. And then also we heard the Tobias Harris news as well. So it's like, if they're going after one of those guys, I think that definitely is a splash to look at. Kuzma, I like Kuzma, but not for the money that they're talking about. If it's something 16 a year, maybe 20 max, depending on how the market heats up, maybe. But I do have some concerns about how he fits into the overall culture of this squad, man.
And then I want to get to Mr. Jones. Shout out to Mr. Jones, by the way. He was in the chat last night as well in the live stream. Shout out to you, man. He said Sasser for the $5. He says Sasser may not play opening night, but he can contribute right away. 4-year guy who shoots the blood out of the ball.
He does.
That's an adjective right there. Shoots the blood out of the ball and has clamps on defense. I love it. Mr. Jones is absolutely correct. Yeah. Also, too, I see, and again, if you're in the chat thread, start putting people you want the Pistons to sign. Free agents you're interested in. I see on here Cam Johnson. I saw a couple. I saw some Grant Williams as well. You just kind of broke down Kuzma. But out of all, and again, I don't want to pay Kuzma $30 million either.
$30 million for Kyle Kuzma
That's
is
wild.
Absolutely outrageous.
It's outrageous. If I'm paying you $30 million, you got to be able to play both sides of the court. That's at least qualification. Like Jeremy Grant, if I'm paying him close to $30 million, if not $30 million, then he's going to bring it. He's going to be one of your better defenders, and he's going to be somebody that can rely on, specifically also from 3. So different. But also on top of that, I want to ask you, with Monty Williams being here, what kind of impact does that have now with this team? Because we just got done talking about Troy, the pressure he's under, how I think for Troy, you could get the draft picks right, you can get the trades correct, you can get the head coach hire correct, but you got to win games. Like on paper, he's done all these things, but you got to win games. Joe Dumars, and I bring this up, Joe Dumars, as much flack as you want to give Joe Dumars for what he's done in the offseason, drafting, trades, free agency, whatever it is, that man brought an NBA title to the city of Detroit.
Correct.
And he was in Eastern Conference Finals for multiple years. That's what matters. It's not, even though we still talk about Darko, you still always reflect back, and Joe brought a period of time for the Pistons that we were relevant, one of the better teams in the NBA. What's next for Troy Weaver? Is it, I know it's wins, But how significant is that? Because Troy can get all these things right, Kool-Aid, but if he doesn't win games, that falls on Troy Weaver as well. And I don't think Tom Gores would be happy with that either.
Nah, not at all. Not at all. Because Tom Gores has been doing all the right things, and seemingly it looks like Troy Weaver has too. You can't really account for injuries. You know what I mean? Like, when those things happen, they happen. You're going to have to do your best to try and get around them. And that's what happened this past season. If you know you go through a year like you do last year and you still turn up with Jaden Ivey and Jalen Duren, you know what? That's a mixed bag. Coming into this season, though, they had aspirations last year of competing. We all believe that this could be a 30-win team. This season, going ahead, I believe that those expectations need to be reset and then some, just a little bit on top. I do believe that this is a very pivotal offseason for Troy. We've been very fair and consistent that, hey, let's see him build. But as we get into this 4th and 5th year, it is now time to see the results of that. Otherwise, it's looking like some of the rebuilds of the past where guys only got 4 or 5 years max and they weren't winning. If they're talking about the restoration and we compare it to what Trader Jack did when he was putting together the Bad Boys, from the time he drafted Isaiah Thomas to the time they were actually winning, it's about 4 years in there. So as it relates to what Troy's doing right now, he's kind of right on schedule, and he has set himself up nicely, but he has to spend that money right. Like, you know, we didn't like the Chauncey Billups trade, and I still to this day, that's just the wrong trade.
Right.
But from a business perspective, it did open up the cap space. He had an opportunity to spend it right, and Joe Dumars just didn't. And so Troy Weaver finds himself in a position where he's opened up cap space, opened up, assets, movable, tradable assets as well. He has the ability now to take advantage of the CBA and acquire people, which is, I think, what they did last night with the Boston Celtics.
Mm-hmm.
They're not trying to acquire too much more salary. So he's put himself in a good position to honestly have a good offseason, but he has to spend it right and get it right this year. I want to see this team really competing every night. I want to see this team really being able to hit 30 to 35 wins. Cade Cunningham is a big-time player.
Absolutely.
Jaden Ivey proved he's a big-time player. Jalen Duren proved he's ready for it every single night, man. And everything that he's talking about as it relates to Asar Thompson, man, I don't want to discount that, man. I don't. You know, last night I was asked, what I believe he can be, and based on what I'm hearing from Troy Weaver, yeah, I did. I said I think he does add that star potential next to that 3. And Troy is saying the same thing, man. Troy said he wanted to hit a home run. He wanted to go for a big swing. I believe that these 2 picks were that, and they helped this team in the win column by next season as well.
Absolutely. I love that answer, Kool-Aid. So I'm gathering from my time getting to know you that you are president of the Jeremy Grant fan club at this point.
Yes, sir.
You know what? And that's okay. I'll tell you what, when he was here, I wasn't a huge fan of him, but what he did last season with Portland, having the best season of his life, averaging 21 a game on 40% from 3, he was quietly one of the more improved players in the NBA, and he was able to do that being more of a third option with Damian Lillard and Anthony Simons. So I am all in on trying to get Jeremy Grant back. What type of role do you think he could play for this Pistons team moving forward, and how would it differentiate from the last time he was here?
Well, his time when he was here in Detroit, they were trying something different. His usage was the highest that it's ever been in his career.
Oh, yeah.
With Denver, he proved he can mesh with good players and contribute to winning and be the defensive player and step up when they need him to. With the Blazers, what they do, they took his usage right back down to those Denver levels. And what did all his stats do? They went back to the efficiency of his Denver days, but he kept some of the same statistical jumps that he made with Detroit. That's what we wanted to see. Well, and he was kind of going through growth, trying to be this number 1 player. I think if he's here, we see kind of what he's been with the Blazers and what he was with Denver. Somebody who you can depend on to go out there and give it all-world defensive talent. He's going to go out there and give you your 20 points. As it relates to some of the comments he made about Asar, I think you get this from a guy at the 4 spot. And he was not looking for his with the Blazers. He was playing his role. And he was hitting the 3 ball at a very, very effective clip. The Jeremy Grant that we see with the Blazers here with this Pistons squad, that's kind of that veteran leader, that veteran voice, somebody who's not trying to take the ball out of these playmakers' hands and realistically just compliment them. Yeah, I think that Jeremy Grant would work great with this team. And honestly, give Asar Thompson not just a little bit more time to develop, but somebody with that talent on your squad to be able to learn from. Yeah, I'd be all for it.
And again, appreciate you for tuning in, everybody, and appreciate you for joining us, Kool-Aid, again,
appreciate you
providing
guys always, man.
great insight. You killed it. We had fun yesterday on the draft. We'll be doing it next year as well, and we're going to be breaking it all down on Woodward Pistons. Could you shout out your socials? Where can people find you?
Hey, definitely at Detroit Kool-Aid, at Woodward Pistons, always YouTube, Twitter, Instagram. Look us up. We got a lot of great content on there, a lot of good work that's going on that channel, and a lot of more stuff that we're going to have up there
Absolutely.
as well. But woodwardsports.com, where I write a couple articles up there as well. One of them based on the press conference that Troy Weaver held last night. So you can get a little bit more in-depth detail on what he feels about about Asar Thompson, and a little bit of our analysis as well. So,
and Sam already kind of told everybody earlier about your love for Jeremy Grant. And Jeremy Grant is a big boy, but we got our own big boy here at Woodward Sports. Matt, could you tell us about
come on, you ready for me?
Let's go, man.
Did you know that Strawberry Fest is back at Big Boy? You can try the classic breakfast items like some strawberry hotcakes or mouth-watering red velvet waffle. If you're not feeling breakfast though, try the strawberry bacon chicken wrap or cool off with the refreshing summer salad. Don't forget to grab dessert, including their berry delicious classic strawberry pie, deep fried vanilla Oreos, or their strawberry hot fudge cake, and more at Big Boy.
That's how you do a fucking live read.
Bro, I'm about to go there.
Introducing the Planet Fitness Guide to getting that post-workout glow. Step 1, what's your why? More epic energy, better sleep, blow off steam? Step 2, join Planet Fitness for just $10 a month and get moving in our clean and spacious clubs. Step 3, bask in that post-workout glow. Join Planet Fitness today for just $10 a month.
Join today at any of the 50-plus Detroit area locations.
All of Detroit's sports teams live on Woodward. All of Detroit's sports coverage lives on Woodward Sports. Driving the best in Detroit sports coverage.
It's the Morning Woodward Show. Thank you guys for tuning in. It's Jeff Iafrate, your host, Sam Flannel, Matt Broder, and Lucas Klotz. And don't forget, if you're watching live, drop a like, support the stream, and subscribe to our wonderful YouTube channel. But we're going to start here with our Michigan segment. Sam Flannel, I know you feel some type of way. I know you do. Kobe Buffkin, Jett Howard, two guys drafted in the top 15, but Juwan Howard, even though he was in person for the draft and got to watch two of his players go top 15, and you had Hunter Dickinson in there. What happened to Michigan this season? Let's just get it out. Let it off. Get it off your chest.
I'll tell you what. I wanted last night to be a celebration of who the Pistons were picking and for it to be a joyous night, but I was painfully reminded of the most painful Michigan basketball season I ever had to go through. And that, of course, is because Jett Howard was picked at number 11 overall and Kobe Buffkin was picked at number 15 overall, meaning Michigan not only had 2 first-round picks on last season's team, they had 2 top 15 picks on last season's team, which I wasn't necessarily expecting, but still. And despite all of that, despite Michigan having 2 top 15 draft picks on that team, Michigan did not make the NCAA tournament. And wait, it gets even better than that. Not only did Michigan have 2 top 15 picks on their team, no other college program had 2 top 15 picks on their team. Not Duke, not Kansas, not Kentucky, not UConn, who won it, just the University of Michigan. And by those numbers, just by that metric, does that mean they had as much high-end talent on their team as anybody? And they couldn't even make the field of 68 last year, and I was just painfully reminded of that last night. And just more stats I can give you that'll make Michigan fans throughout the world explode. Michigan had 2 top 15 picks. All the Big Ten combined had 3 total. You had Jalen Hood-Schifino from Indiana at 17. You had Chris Murray. I think he was in the middle of the 20s. And Bryce Sensabaugh, who I like, by the way. And they were all picked after the players from Michigan. And Michigan, despite all of that, could not make the NCAA tournament. But wait, there's more, and it gets worse. There were, I believe, let me count, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Oh, he's counting.
8 Big Ten teams in the NCAA tournament last year. Maryland, 0 players drafted in the first round. Illinois, 0 players drafted in the first round. Indiana, I already mentioned Jalen Hood-Schifino. Iowa, Chris Murray, that's 1 and 1. Michigan State, my hated rival Michigan State, 0. Northwestern, 0. Penn State, 0. And number 1 seed Purdue, 0. All of that combined in terms of tournament teams in the Big Ten, the rest, all of the teams in the Big Ten that made the tournament combined had 2 first-round picks because Ohio State didn't make it. Michigan alone had 2 top 15 picks. And despite all of that, Michigan did not even make the NCAA tournament. And that doesn't even take into account. Not only did Michigan have the 2 top 15 picks from this draft, they also had Hunter Dickinson, who, say what you want about him, he is one of the better college big men and has been an excellent college player. So that's that. And you know what's even more depressing? Look at how bare the cupboard is going into next year. Matt Broder, you know this all too well. Thank you. I hear that on repeat all day long. The sad, sad, sweet nothings of
Can we get some
Michigan
violins
basketball.
in the chat for Sam Flannel?
Just
drop the violins,
world's smallest
please.
violin, because Michigan just wasted a season with all of that talent. And you know what they got for it? They got for it a next season in which they have not even nearly that much talent. We better hope that
you know
guys
what they
like,
do have, Flannel?
What do they have?
Juwan fucking Howard, though,
thank
baby.
you. Thank you,
Go
Lucas
Big
Klotz.
Blue.
You know what? Thank you, Lucas Klotz. And it was so maddening. I had to watch Juwan Howard, who did one of the worst coaching jobs in the history of Michigan basketball, who completely burnt down the program that John Beilein helped build into one of the better Big Ten programs in the country. I had to watch him sit there and be celebrated because his son Jet Howard got drafted. And I was just looking at him like, you couldn't even coach this team to get to the NCAA tournament. Michigan had so many games in which they blew, winnable games in which they blew. I believe they had 7 games where at one point in the game they had an 80% chance or more to win, and they lost 7 of them. It was absolutely pathetic. And Juwan Howard, the fact that people still push back at me when I say that Juwan Howard should have been fired that day after they lost to Rutgers in the Big Ten tournament, should have been fired on the floor in disgrace. But no, he is still there after all of that, that being laid out. And I understand it was bad before. It was really bad before. But nobody expected Kobe Buffkin and Jet Howard to be 2 top 15 picks. I expected them to maybe be in the first round, but they were both top 15 picks. So after all of that, after all the excitement I had for the Detroit Pistons, I still had that much misery for the Michigan Wolverines basketball program. And it's not looking good this year. No. And I'm still, because Hunter Dickinson transferred. Kobe Buffkin and Jet Howard are obviously gone. Doug McDaniel's still there. Terrace Reed is still there. They got a couple of interesting transfers, and Olivier Camus, I believe that's how you pronounce it. Trey Jackson, but whatever.
The fact. They're not sniffing the top 25.
No, they're probably not even going to make the tournament. And you know what? When they don't make the tournament, I'm still going to hear people talk about Juwan Howard, how he's actually been a good coach because of that one year where they made the Elite Eight and choked in the Elite Eight to an 11-seed UCLA team, by the way. And I'm still going to have to hear about all of that. How they, had a Sweet 16 streak, even though the last season they made the Sweet 16 with Caleb Houston and Moussa Diabate. They had a terrible regular season and were lucky to even sneak into the tournament despite being a preseason top 5 seed, top 5 team. I did not want to rant about Michigan basketball, but I just could not help myself. I want to know, all you Michigan fans out there, were you feeling the same way as I was, which was depression after feeling so happy about the Pistons?
I love the violins in the chat, by the way. You guys are the best. I'm reading some of these comments, too. They're making me laugh, and I want to get your reaction to them. A targeted individual says, Michigan made Emmanni Bates look like the second coming of John Morant. There's that part of it, too.
I mean, hey, Emmanni Bates is obviously super talented. I don't look at that as a big blemish on the season because Michigan did win that game, but still, Eastern Michigan kept it pretty damn close, and Emmanni Bates did have a good game.
And then Dave Schultz says, this is Sam finally having some emotional connection to something in sports.
I'll tell you what.
There's no stats needed for this one.
Well, and I had plenty of stats anyway, but I'll tell you what, I feel about Michigan athletics the same way that Jeff Iafrate feels about the Pistons. I obviously love the Pistons too, like any Detroit sports fan, but Michigan football, more so than even basketball, Michigan athletics is where my passion really comes through. And I really feel like in terms of Michigan basketball, I love them more than anyone else at the network. So that means I had to suffer more than anyone else at the network because I lived and died with those horrible losses despite all of that talent. It was miserable. Miserable.
Oh, I've enjoyed this. I just love hearing Sam not only speak from the heart, and it's a lot of emotion, but you're still kind of throwing in those stat nuggets in there too.
Oh, yeah.
Like it's like a little bit of both for Sam. I love it. You can tell two top 15 picks for Michigan. To summarize everything you just said, they did less with more.
Yes.
There you go.
They did less with more. And
they did less with more.
I see someone else in the chat. Let me get to him. I forgot who it was. I can't find it right now.
Flannel has turned red within the last 3 minutes. He was at like a Lucas pasty white, and now the dude looks like a fucking tomato.
You know, I do look like a tomato because that's what all this discourse does to me. And I saw someone in the chat. Like I said, I apologize I didn't get your name. And he was like, you're acting like John Beilein won 5 natties. No, he didn't win 5 natties, but he did get to 2 Final Fours and 2 national championship games. And he did have Michigan into one of their most successful stretches. Certainly their most successful stretch since the late 80s, early 90s, where you had the Glenn Rice national championship team and then the Fab Five. John Beilein is arguably the best coach in school history. And Juwan Howard, despite being a Michigan legend, a member of the aforementioned Fab Five, has been an absolute flameout as a head coach. You can't waste that much talent.
No.
You can't.
No, you can't. Kevin Bell says, I think Sam was hatched in a Michigan nuclear underground testing facility.
I probably was. I can't confirm or deny
He was hatched
that.
in the Michigan Titan that was trapped by the Titanic, and somehow he swam up to shore and lived. That's why he hates the world, and he kills like 30 people for all of his flannels.
And you know what? You know what? This is a great comment. Didn't even remember this. Jesse Adams says, let's not forget Central Michigan beat them in the AA.
That was one of the worst losses of the season. Central Michigan, who I think was they were a losing mid-major team and they had a losing conference record, goes into the Chrysler Center, which used to be a tough place to play back in John Beilein's day, and then won. They beat them, and that was the one game where Hunter Dickinson did choke and played terrible, and I actually came on these airwaves the next day and said, F Hunter Dickinson. But to be fair, I did apologize to Hunter Dickinson because he did play better as the season went on, particularly in their stretch of games to end the season, but that was egregious. And those are the type of things that kept happening to Michigan basketball last year.
Absolutely, no doubt about it. I'll tell you what, we'll go to break. When we get back, I want to get to some what's trending with Lucas and some mailbag, and we'll talk about a plethora of other things. So stick around. You're going to want to stay tuned for that. But before we do that, can you tell us where we can work out?
Oh, man, because I need to work out. Well, actually, I got to work out in the chair today, but if I need to do whatever the heck this is, my bicep curls, I go to Planet Fitness, of course, and Planet Fitness is thrilled to allow high schoolers ages 14 through 19 in the United States and Canada to work out for free all summer long, going all the way through August 31st. Teens can register anytime and officially gain access to the club the day that they register, with registration open during the summer months through August 31st. You still have a lot of time. Visit the landing page for more information and legal disclosures, planetpfsummerpasscontest.com, and for everybody else, memberships are starting at only $10 a month, despite it being the best gym around. Or you could upgrade to the black card for $24.99 per month and
Flannel's
get all
favorite
of
thing.
my favorite thing, where I get all of the amenities and can go work out at any gym I want across the country. Join today in club or go online. Visit planetfitness.com. It's Planet Fitness, where your fitness is essential.
At work and at home, we're there with smarter security solutions, featuring complete automation with customized alerts and more. For over 90 years, we've been the company that's been counted on to protect what matters most, all with personalized service and care. Right now, for a limited time, receive a free video device plus free installation with a new home system. Guardian Alarm. We protect Michigan.
Woodward Avenue, the first paved road in America. Woodward Sports, the first sports network born in Detroit and made for Detroit.
We're back. It's the Morning Woodward Show, woodwardsports.com. Jeff Iafrate, Sam Flannel, Matt Broder, Lucas Klotz. And again, we appreciate every single one of you for sticking with us, tuning in on this post-NBA draft show. It is Friday, and we got plenty to talk about. Even though we got through a ton, we're still going to get to what's trending. We're going to get to mailbag. Save your questions for 9:50 and have them ready, whether it's for Sam Flannel and how he feels about Michigan, or it's Pistons related, or simply Lions related. Anything you guys want to ask, you can do it. But before we do that, Lucas, what do you got for us today?
All right, so I was strolling through Twitter yesterday, and obviously we have the Grady Dick appearance pretty much took over everything on Twitter last night. I mean, the man was looking stunning, if you think so. I don't know how you do, but There it is.
Gosh.
What are we rating that fit 1 through 10? What are you giving it, Jeff?
Man, that fit. Well, the confidence makes the fit. Because if Grady Dick wasn't confident, the fit. He just looks like he's saying to the camera, "I'm him. This is my fit. I'm ready for success." I know it's the theme from Kansas and obviously with all that stuff. I get where the actual suit comes from. But that outfit for Grady Dick, man. Grady Dick wearing that, the fact that his name is Grady Dick makes it even better.
He
looks fly.
You know what? That's all well and good, but did you see Victor Wembanyama wearing something like that? Did you see Scoot Henderson wearing something like that? Did you see
None
Brandon
of those
Miller
guys
wearing
are Grady
something like
Dick.
that? That's fine,
To be
but they're
fair.
better prospects. They at least respected the process, unlike Grady Dick. And I get it. Grady Dick, I actually like him a lot as a player. He was a 40% three-point shooter in college, and I wouldn't have even minded if the Pistons had got him at some point, although maybe not at 5. But at this point, maybe Grady Dick is steering into the skid and realizing that he's going to be more of a gimmick, especially with the Kansas theme and the Wizard of Oz. But I still don't like it. Show some respect for the process, young man.
And Jake also says, WoodwardSports.com, to be fair, dicks are not known for looking great.
He's got that dick drip.
That's fair by Jake.
Dicks
That's
are
very
not known
fair.
for looking great.
Now,
I mean,
Grady
on their
Dick,
own,
I thought the outfit was great. I think the confidence makes the fit. Broder, am I crazy for that? The confidence is everything.
The confidence is everything. It's like Chaz Michaels out there, Better step aside, homeschool. There's a new sheriff in town.
Yeah.
Grady Dick, that was a statement for sure.
He's coming in to tear the league up, Lucas. That's
Indeed.
what I think about that outfit.
You know who else tore the league up this year? Tariq Woolen. Okay,
he did.
And this is one me and Jeff go back and forth about this all the time. And before I pull the graphic up, I want to make this statement clear. Sauce Gardner is a great corner. He's going to be a top 5 corner for probably the rest of his career. But this season, I truly believe in my mind, watching the film, looking at the stats, Tariq Woolen was the better corner as a rookie, just as a rookie, than Sauce Gardner. And then me and Jeff were sitting in the back, so I want to get your guys' opinion, including the chat's. But, let me get it. Opinions on this graphic is the top 10 coverage players of 2022 based on next-gen stats. And my whole argument about Tariq Woolen is Sauce Gardner had DJ Reed on the other side. So his development in the league was much easier going. But you see these, and I think this shows a lot. You don't see the Jalen Ramseys. You don't see the Stephon Gilmores. You don't see the premier corners on here outside of Jair Alexander. So what do you guys think as far as between Tariq Woolen and Sauce Gardner? How do you think their careers are going to play out?
Sam, you said it best before about Tariq Woolen. I think value-wise, that's incredible value for Tariq Woolen he was drafted. But Sauce Gardner clearly is the better corner. Now, you like to make the argument that Tariq Woolen had a better season.
He did. If you truly think about it, in the NFC West, and you go through the Seahawks secondary, Jamal Adams got hurt, Quandre Diggs got hurt, and then they had Kobe Bryant, another rookie on the other side. And then you go to Sauce. Again, both of these guys are great players. I think Sauce is going to have a better career, but Sauce Gardner did not have as much of an impact on the Seahawks that Tariq Woolen did, if that makes sense.
No, and again, for Tariq Woolen, I don't doubt he's going to be a fine player, but doing what Sauce did, and even if he has DJ Reed on the opposing side, that is unreal. To be a top 5 pick and to live up to those expectations, to guard number 1 wide receivers every single game, and guard some of the best wide receivers in the game and play at a high level, Sam, what Sauce did is incredibly impressive. Doesn't take away anything Tariq Woolen did, because I get the defense he's working with Seattle, but Sauce Gardner, he's in a different stratosphere.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Tariq Woolen was obviously excellent last season. The Seahawks got a steal. I mean, arguably the best value pick from that draft, although you could also argue Brock Purdy, but we're splitting hairs at this point. Tariq Woolen, 6 interceptions, was obviously had an excellent season. But what Sauce Gardner did, he was actually prime Darrelle Revis as a rookie. He was first-team All-Pro. Yes, he was. He yielded a 54 passer rating when targeted. Tariq Woolen, 70. 70 is very, very good, but it ain't 54, and I say ain't for effect. Sauce Gardner shut down half the field. He's obviously going to be a better player going forward, but Tariq Woolen, it wouldn't shock me at all if he makes multiple Pro Bowls and maybe a couple second-team All-Pros, maybe sneak in a first right next to Sauce Gardner.
Mm-hmm. That's fair. The thing is with Sauce is he doesn't travel. DJ Reed had the right side. He had know what happened there. Had some dispo this morning. But you have a Sauce on the right side and DJ Reed on the left. Tariq's traveling every play. So that number 1 receiver, he is truly following him around. Sauce, Yes, the number one receiver can be on the left side sometimes, but a lot of times he's on the right. So a lot of these times, Tariq is going up and he's having to play the number one receiver every snap, and Sauce just didn't have that. Again, that's not saying Sauce is bad, but the situations are different. I think you have to take that into account with these guys.
And again, although we disagree, Lucas, and I will forever die at the hill of Sauce Gardner, because it's the proof's in the pudding.
Yes.
I mean, I don't have to really speak on it too often. I do appreciate the conversation. And again, we're going to start doing What's Trending with Lucas more often at around this time, whether he's asking us questions or bringing up trending topics we can react. That Grady Dick outfit, I mean, he's on point. Like, Grady Dick is on point. Point blank.
Point blank.
Like, look at this. Before we go to break, can we just acknowledge this for a second? The balls Grady Dick has.
Yes.
Pause on that. But the fact that he had the balls, Grady Dick has the balls, to go to the draft in that outfit speaks volumes to what Grady Dick's going to be in the NBA. You watch out. It's Grady Dick season this upcoming season.
It's Grady Dick season, yeah.
But before we do that, I got to tell you, our better friends over at Outdoor Equipment Company, because guys, your childhood may be over, but certainly your playtime is not. Outdoor Equipment Company is your source for outdoor power equipment sales, service, and parts, carrying top brands such as Bad Boy, LS Tractor, and more, servicing the Great Lakes region, again, around Metro Detroit and Greater Lansing. For more information, visit OutdoorEquipCo.com. Outdoor Equipco, your power equipment playground.
Since the dawn of moving people, Chevrolet has led the way. The world of transportation is changing. At Feldman Chevrolet, we are leading the charge forward. With every electric vehicle, every mile traveled, one Feldman at a time. The company that puts more Chevys on Michigan roads is now the #1 name for Chevy electric vehicles.
We don't like to brag that we are the toughest sports network in Detroit, but we do have a guy named Darren McCarty on our side. Woodward Sports.
Planning on sponsoring a golf outing this year? Ask Swiss Insurance about hole-in-one, putting contests, and $1 million shootout coverage. For a very affordable amount, you could give away a huge prize like $10,000 or a new car. Help build your business with big ideas. Check out Swiss today, SwissINS.com, or call Mark at 248-800-4177. That is 248-800-4177, Swiss Insurance.
Welcome back to the Morning Woodward Show here on the Woodward Sports Network. Jeff Iafrate, Sam Flannel, Matt Broder, and Lucas Klotz. We appreciate you guys sticking with us through the entirety of the show. We really do. It means a ton to us. And we're going to get some of these comments, too, and hopefully we got some funny ones in here for Sam Flannel. I want to get to the first one by Do It Effortless. Who do you guys think will be the first Piston to be traded? It's a great question. You can start with this one, Sam. First Piston to be traded. Who do you think?
Bojan.
It's a great answer.
I mean, I like Bojan Bogdanovic. I love what he's done from three, but if they want to make a big move, I don't see how he could not be packaged into a trade. So I'm going to go with Bojan, even if it's not who I want for them to be traded, but that's who I think they will trade first. What say you, Jeff?
I agree. I was going to say Bojan. I think realistically it's Bojan. Now, if you want to talk about the young players, who's going to get traded, if you're trying to get a big-time player and you got to put together a package along with, hopefully – it's not going to be a player to the caliber where they're going to command Jaden Ivey, but I think Isaiah Stewart's going to be in that deal. I think other players. Killian Hayes to me has really no value right now. But if you could trade for any player, you'd have to include Isaiah. But Bojan, the expiring deal in a couple of years. I think he has 2 years left on his deal. They signed him to an extension, so it's not a long-term deal. He's older. The contract's not terrible. There's going to be contenders that call and ask for Bojan. So I think it's Bojan as well. So I'm going to agree with you there. Let's get to some of these other questions. Lucian, if I pronounce that correctly, tell me. I don't want to get your name wrong. My guy. He says, Mailbag Flannel needs some custom flannels with some Detroit patches ironed on. That could work.
No, I think at this point that should happen. Probably even before the Lions and Michigan season. I'm gonna try to get on that because I need to build up that brand a little bit more. And the fact that I have to wear flannels every day means I can't really wear Lions or Michigan attire on the air, but I would love to kill two birds with one stone. Let's make it all happen.
You need to get more cutoff flannels.
Oh,
you need to get like 7 of them, wear one per week, and just rotate them.
Mike G says, mail sack, will flannel be allowed into the Chrysler Center after the Hoops diatribe.
You know what? It is okay to criticize your program when they have an egregious error like that. I mean, Mike G, you saw how much talent that they had. You already knew how much talent that they had. But the NBA folks thought that they had a lot of high-end talent as well, arguably the most in the country, judging by the numbers that I laid out for you earlier. So all I'm doing is I want the Michigan basketball program, which was humming under John Beilein, to hum again. And I just think that Juwan Howard has done a piss poor job as a head coach so far. So yes, I should be allowed into Chrysler Center. I should. And I might go to a game, but judging how the roster looks this year, I might not go to a game.
Pat him down before you do that. I'm not letting you in a Michigan event, besides maybe football this year, unpadded. There's no chance.
Oh, football, I'll be at the big house all the time.
I don't think there's any stress for Michigan football.
Steve asks, mailbag, did you guys see the DeAndre Hunter to Detroit rumor? Is this something you could see happening, and what would it take to get it done? I did see that, Steve. I think it's still on the table to some extent. I mean, DeAndre Hunter, you look at the fit in Atlanta. I don't know if he has a future there. I know they have Trae Young. DeJounte Murray signed a max contracts. And if you look down the line, John Collins as well. What happens with John Collins? There's a lot of things going on in Atlanta that I can't really predict. I don't know who's going to be traded. Is it John? Is it DeAndre Hunter? But if you can get DeAndre Hunter for a decent price, I would do it.
I would as well.
3-and-D wing,
100%.
solid. I like DeAndre Hunter a lot. I do. Let's get to some of these other questions. BigCon51, mailbag, did we watch college basketball get absolutely murdered last night? Honestly, that is something that's been trending more because it's not just, and I kind of talked about this at the beginning of the show too, it's not just college basketball anymore, overseas. It's college basketball, it's overseas, but it's overtime elite now. It's the G League Ignite. G League is now making more and more noise. Scoot Henderson, top 3 pick. Jalen Green went number 2.
Yeah.
Like, there's more alternatives than simply just going to college and playing ball.
Yeah, I mean, 4 out of the top 5 didn't play college basketball. 5 out of the top 7, the only 2 in the top 7 that did are Anthony Black and Brandon Miller. So, yeah. And that also leads to the problem of, and it's not necessarily their fault, a lot of people may not have seen a lot of these guys play because we're all programmed to be more college basketball fans. We were used to seeing these guys play in the NCAA tournament, and we knew a lot more about them. And now there's a lot of unknowns. So, yeah, it looks like there's more options for talented players to sort of spread themselves out at. And I don't know if that's good or bad, but it is reality. And it really kind of reared its ugly head this year more than any.
Jesse asks, mailbag, who wins this weekend, Jeff? Josh Emmett or Ilya? Second question, what Lions jersey would you buy this year? Well, to the first question, Ilya's a dog. And that he's had beef with Patty, too. So I'm riding with Ilya. Even though I like Josh Emmett, he's built different to me. And the second question, what Lions jersey would you buy? I would say Kirby Joseph, or Penei Sewell, one of those players. I'm assuming yours Aiden Hudson. Yeah, I don't even need it. I already knew it, Sam. Oh, yeah. I know you way too well. I do. Jack Harrington, mailbag, who wins week 1, LSU or FSU? Well, if Gabby was here, she'd choose FSU, but logically, I'm going to go with LSU.
God, that is so tough because I think those are 2 teams that could be sleepers. I mean, Florida State, I think they're fixing to have their best season they had since the year where they made the college football playoff with Jameis Winston as their quarterback, which is the year after they won the national championship. I think it could be one of the best games of the season, and I'm looking for both of them to be at the very worst 10-win teams, maybe fringe college football playoff teams. As of right now, I will probably say Florida State.
Couple questions here. Let's open them up and we'll get your thoughts. Hopefully we got some Sam Flannel Michigan themed questions. That's what I'm looking for.
Oh, thank you.
Here we go. Shane D. Thank you, Shane D. Mailbag. When was the last time Michigan played a tough schedule? Sam, any chance for comment?
It's been a little while. I'll admit it. This year and the year before, obviously the out of conference schedule has been fairly weak, but the year before, in 2021, they did play Washington at home, and Washington was much worse that year than anybody thought that they would be. And for the longest time, I think in 2018 they opened the season at Notre Dame. I believe that was Shea Patterson's first game as a starter. So it hasn't been that long. And if they ever get that rivalry going with Notre Dame again, that's a built-in tough game most of the time, especially when you have to go to South Bend.
Yes. Maine 313 asks, mailbag, do you see multiple all-star appearances, I'm assuming, in a SAR? I think I'll say this, because I think projecting that on players right now, I mean, you look at skill sets and maybe you can come to a conclusion, but I'll say this, at the 5th pick, out of all the guys available, Assard to me has that upside. Like, even I like Taylor Hendricks, but I'm not going to sit here and say Taylor Hendricks is going to be a multiple-time All-Star. If there is a player that could be that, it's Assard. I'll say that out of anybody you could have taken at 5.
I would agree with that, but the problem with that is on the other end, if you swing and miss, then Assard could turn into a complete flameout. I don't predict that for the record. I think he's going to at least be a very good player.
Well, you don't want him to be Stanley Johnson.
Absolutely not.
Sorry to throw a stray at Stanley Johnson.
If you're drafting a dude named Stanley, what was Stanley, 5th? Was he the 5th overall?
I think he was
pick?
8th.
No,
right?
yeah, he wasn't 5th.
Okay, so you're taking a dude in the lottery named Stanley out of Georgia, okay? So this isn't some prominent basketball school. The only thing good coming out of there is Anthony Edwards. Who was that? Stan Van Gundy? That was his era?
Yep, Stan Van Gundy.
Says enough.
But remember when
Says
Stanley
enough.
Johnson got in LeBron's head, allegedly? What a clown.
The LeBron stopper is Stanley.
He did a decent job, but no one can shut down LeBron. I always love that when people have the Iguodala conversation. Speaking of Iguodala with Assar Thompson, winning Finals MVP for holding LeBron to like 35, 10, and 10. It's like
it was 36, 13, and 9. It wasn't inefficient 36, 13, and 9, but he was playing most of the series without Kyrie Irving and all of the series without Kevin Love. I will die on this hill. LeBron James should have been 2015 Finals MVP, even in a losing effort.
And by the way, I appreciate every single one of you. I'm going to say it again, and I'm going to keep saying it till the wheels fall off. I appreciate every single one of you for tuning in, showing support to the Morning Woodward Show on this post-draft day special with me, Sam, Matt, and Lucas. Again, you guys have a great weekend. We'll see you guys Monday. We're going to come prepared. We're going to have a great show Monday. We'll see you guys then. But until then, see you guys later.